Welcome, everyone, to the Blueprint for Peace for Humanity. This is day 2, the second session, the afternoon of Monday, July 3rd, 2017. And this is a production of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. And we had a morning session with Mr. Keshe, and it was a very powerful session with some interesting ideas that came up. And now we are to discuss some of the concepts or some ideas related to those concepts for the afternoon session amongst ourselves here. I believe Mr. Keshe won't be available for this session, and he will be available again for tomorrow morning's session. Okay, so how would we like to begin here? Does anybody have something they would like to say to begin to sort of help us start out with the outline of what it is that we need to talk about in this session?
I have a question, Rick. It's Jalal here.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any from the Mojon there in the panelists who can speak and teach? Maybe.
Well, that's an idea. If there is a Mojan in the panelists or attendees, if they're an attendee, they can raise their hand and become a panelist in order to speak. So you can leave that option open. If is there anyone here that qualifies for that? We have an attendee that raised their hand, Camille. I'll promote you to panelists so you can speak in any case. Are you one of the Mojan, Camille?
Hello. What is a Mojan?
Ah, I guess you aren't if you have to ask.
Right.
Perhaps Jalal could explain.
And how do you spell that?
It's is it M-O-H?
Please.
Was it M-O-H?
Yeah, M-O-Z-H-A-N.
Oh, M-O-Z-H-A-N.
Yeah, M-O-Z-H-A-N. It's an acronym.
Or M-O-Z-H-A-N if you're in Canada.
Funny how I said Z.
I probably would too. Okay. So do we have a definition of that? Was it Jalal that originally had that comment? Or who brought that up? Or anyone can give a definition of the Mojan. Maybe we could take it off the website or something. It's an acronym, correct?
That's correct.
Or it also has a meaning as a word as well. I think
I think it was Mr. Keshe's brother who passed away, and Mr. Keshe put the Mojan's name on this program after his brother.
Ah, yes, thank you. That's right. I remember that now. Thank you for clarifying that. So the program is basically the Spaceship program of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, and involves the training of the those who wish to go to space, essentially. And the way I understand it, most of the training now is how to go to space without a spaceship, other than your own spaceship.
With your Merkaba or your chariot of light?
I don't know if I have a chariot of light.
I mean, are
If
you
if
familiar
you
with
have one,
that? Well, everybody does, but do are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
yeah,
Okay.
but
Is that what you're
every,
talking about, where you have the two inverted triangles that spin in opposite directions that creates a vortex and pretty much creates a light body around you so that you can travel?
who is the you that's traveling?
Your light body.
And where does your heavy body stay?
Well, it's my understanding that, okay, it's my understanding that, well, anyway, we're supposed to be shifting to the fifth dimension, and our body is supposed to transition from a carbon-based body to a crystalline body. So it's my understanding that you take your body with you, or, I mean, I need to get more clarity on it myself, but you take your body with you, or you take a light body with you, and you can basically leave your body at will. Traveling in a Merkaba, chariot of light.
Right, so some people have talked about astral travel or astral projection or remote reading or remote viewing. These are all different methods of, one could say, leaving the body, but I bet Mr. Keshe would argue that you don't leave your body. You actually have a bigger body that you enter into, or a different body, or a, like you say, a light body. So who is the I involved there? And what is the relationship between that I, which is the voyager, let's say, or traveler, and the physicality, which is pretty much stuck on this planet, let's say, other than we might be able to voyage in the short distances of space, but Mr. Keshe seems to emphasize that it would be difficult to continue with our, what we call our physical body in deep.
In what? Are you there?
I think Rick has
Dropped.
been dropped. Yeah. Flint, can you please take over?
So if I can ask one more time real quick, I wasn't clear on that. What is a MOSON? Or what does that acronym stand for?
It's right here on the screen. It stands for...
Hello.
The method of travel using... Yeah, hi Rick. The method of travel using plasmatic MIGRAS protection from motion for the future space systems is to be called the Magnetically Oriented Joint Habitation and Nutrition System, MOJHAN. The passengers of this man-orientated zone habitation and nutrition to be known as MOZAN, M-O-Z-H-A-N.
Okay. Zone habitation and nutrition. Zone habitation.
Man-originated zone and habitation and nutrition. And that's essentially what he's teaching us today.
And nutrition. Okay, thank you.
Using our heart to connect with our soul and literally feed ourselves so we don't have to eat.
Right, like the breatharians do. You've heard of breatharians?
Yes, I have.
Okay. They live off the essence, the prana of source.
I think that they might have it partially figured out.
What's the other part I'm missing?
If they fully understood, they wouldn't even be here physically.
When Mr. Keshe met the guru who was so famous for being able to go without food for 30, 40 days, he basically said, you're a scam. you're not, it's not true. And his reasoning was that he was getting his energy from the air. He was eating the air, in effect. So he wasn't actually going without food.
Right. So have you heard about the man who was actually in the jungle in India for 26 years and said he didn't eat or drink anything, but he was living off of source energy? He said he would get an elixir of light dropped on the top of his head.
No.
Is how he described it. Yeah. So they were doing studies on him, and he was like in his 70s, and his body had retained his body of a 28-year-old man. I can send you the link if you want.
Most 28-year-olds nowadays, I don't know if I want to have their body.
Okay, well, we're talking about somebody who's who's one with nature, I guess.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. The idea is the idea of longevity and so on, which is definitely something that can be entered into. But as Mr. Keshe says, with entering into this soul knowledge, you have essentially almost an unlimited lifespan, because you simply unfold in a new environment and go through those experiences and then fold back up and go into another new environment when it's time to unfold again. Mm-hmm. It's a different concept in a way than like in our situation now. We're under the gravity of the situation of being on planet Earth, and it's pretty grave sometimes. In fact, that's the end result, is grave for the physicality. And that's where we get the choice point. In fact, we have the choice point in every moment, but we think of death as a choice point between physicality and something beyond the physicality. And if we think of ourselves or that we're going to be buried, then that's where the attention goes, the energy flows, and we flow back into the earth. But maybe we have an option at that point to become a spaceman instead. So I think that's a one way to look at it. It's just my personal kind of perspective.
Yeah, but we are a star. We are not a planet.
We're already multi-dimensional beings.
We can
going back to
star.
Tapping into it, into being that.
Right. Well, I think we can become a star. I'm not sure. I know we come from star, and we're made of star dust. Basically, all the atoms in our body were once went through a star. So we're not actually made of the stuff of the earth in a way. We're made of stuff from stars, which is interesting. It's a different perspective. Are we made of earth? Are we made of star? Are we made of earth dust, or are we made of stardust? You choose.
So, but that dust does have fields, does it not?
Yes, and yeah, definitely. In fact, stardust has some of the most interesting fields in that way. That's the origin of life, is from stardust. Once we get into gravity, then it's a different situation than being out in space, because in space we have the vacuum condition, which makes all the elements are not in their elemental form mostly. So the hydrogen is in a different form in space than we find it as a gas in our gravity situation. What else? Can someone else make some comments, or I might keep rambling on.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So if there's boundaries between the layers of, let's say, between the planet and the and the solar environment, and then between the solar environment and the galactic environment, and then obviously beyond that, the galactic environment and the universal, or whatever's above that at this point. Why not the idea of the transition points between our physical and our soul? And how do we get through those?
Could you say that last question again, just the way you said it? What are the transition points? Is that what you said?
Well, as there are transitions between different environments, right? The Earth and the solar environment, and then sun and the galactic environment, and then on, then it also goes down below as well. Why not between the physical and then the soul? So if that barrier holds true in the universal constant and above and below, of course, then why not inside of us as well, in terms of our physical and our emotional and our soul?
Yeah, and I think the trick part is that we can connect with the principal energy directly if we're able to skip the in-betweens, perhaps. I'm just saying, it's like we are a reflection of all of those worlds, not just the Earth or this. We're probably not limited to the solar system in that, like you mentioned transitions and you mentioned like barriers basically, but at the same time we resonate with those other greater galaxies too. I mean, when I look up at the sky and see the Milky Way galaxy, I definitely resonate with that. As you know, this is a big picture. We're part of this Milky Way galaxy. I can see it glowing in the sky and so on. And we can look at the sun and say we're part of this solar system, and we feel the energy of the sun. We feel the, you know, all the life on this planet is due to that source. But is the sun the ultimate source? Probably not. Is the solar system, is our galaxy the ultimate source? No. What is the ultimate source? Maybe at the core of the core of the core of the universe, basically.
But why even stop there?
Okay.
Rick, I have
Well, I had to draw a limit somewhere. I can't go further than the core of the core.
What we can think about. That's the boundary, right? That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
Our boundary. What can we imagine, and what do we say? Oh, I can't think of anything more than that, because that's my boundary, and that's as far as I can think.
Well, you got me there, because I couldn't go any further than that.
May I interject?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is Camille. I would say that source is originates from the singularity of all that is. I like God is spirit, God is love, and dwells in unapproachable light. Always with you, always loving, and exists in every cell of your body, awaiting to be acknowledged of its presence. And we do that through being love, or allowing love, because we already are love. So whether it's the conduit of the connections of the sun that brings, what do I want to say, the essence of the God consciousness into earth, but we also pull it forward when we focus on love, just like we're shifting to the fifth dimension. And next time I'm on here, I'm going to
how do you describe
Dr.
love?
Schiss. Well, love is love. First of all, God is love and love is God. And the way I would describe it is that we are an expression of God. God experiences through us. Love is the connection of the heart, the consciousness mind of the heart, which is experienced through feelings and emotions, allowing you to bring forth your compassion, your empathy, towards yourself so that you can give it to others. But you already are that. And in order to give it out, you have to allow that to build in your body, or allow that to build in your consciousness, and release the programming that's been put upon us. Does that make sense?
Excuse me. Can I ask you, why didn't you, in that whole sentence that you just said, I know it's sort of an condition to say heart. Did you mean soul? Because there was no mentioning of the soul. So where does that?
Well, the soul exists within your pineal gland, and
yeah, but you have a But it sounds physical when you say pineal. And it's a hollow. It's not physical. It's not tangible. The soul sits within the center of the brain, which is hollow, which is free, which is non-tangible and non-dimensional, connected.
You're absolutely correct. But that's the seat of the soul. Is your pineal gland? Is the seat of the soul?
Yeah,
that's the conduit there. Yes, your soul doesn't need a body, but that's the conduit there. And as far as your heart-centered consciousness, your heart makes up, emits 5,000 more times electromagnetic frequency than your brain, and you actually think with your heart. That's your higher mind. That's your first mind connected to source.
But isn't that the flow? It's not just the beating.
It's all the flow and the balance. Yes, it's all integrated, just like your body. You know, even though everything seems separate, it's all weaved together. Your heart, your lungs, you know, it all comes from two cells. And those two cells multiplied and divided, all the same identical cells. But the only reason one cell could make an eye and the other cell could make a heart or a hair follicle or whatever is because it changes its focus, its consciousness focus.
Hey, Camille, with all the thing you're talking about, that all the thing you know, have you accessed your soul?
I would say that I've accessed my soul. I know I've accessed something. I mean, I did.
If you access it, why are you here?
Why am I here?
Because once you access your soul, you don't want to stay here.
You mean, why am I here on the planet? Or why am I here on the call?
You know,
what do you mean? What do you mean, Azar? Once you access your soul, you don't want to be here?
Because the reason for it is because you will see the beauty of creation, and what you see here is so. I mean, Mr. Keshe explained it, that when he sees the creator, he doesn't want to be here because it's that beautiful. And I think what Camille is teaching us, I hear a lot of teaching like this, but to me, these are all descriptions. But
wait a minute. You said, Azar, wait a minute. I would like to make a distinction here. You sort of said that Camille would not be here if she accessed her soul. And if that's true, then Mr. Keshe would not be here either, because he's accessed his soul lots of times.
No, Mr. Keshe accessed his soul lots of times, and he is his decision to stay here, and he's teaching us. But what Camille is teaching us, I mean, a lot of people teach that, but none of them access their soul.
Is that right? Do you know that for a fact?
I think everybody has their own.
How can you judge that all these people have not accessed their soul? I don't understand, and I don't understand why you'd be so negative about it like that.
No, I'm not negative. I'm not judging. I'm just saying this is the way we are talking about it. We're talking about the two physical.
Can I say something? You remember when Mr. Keshe said if we truly experienced or saw or understood the totality, the beauty of creation, yes, a lot of us would probably, most probably, that's what he said, commit suicide. So I think it's going in the right direction at this whole understanding level. And I do believe that once we are in that realm of understanding, yes, why be here in this burdensome physicality of human manifestation? Why not something else? It could be another existence, but why human? Because it's so much pain and suffering, but still a lot of learning potential.
Well, the why is because we are here. We are manifesting. This is what we do when we're manifesting.
Well, let me add to that, man.
And you can not manifest if you wish, and you go off and you roll up the towel and away you go. But you may not land back on planet Earth again. You may be a worm in some other planet or something. It's hard to say. It's a roll of the dice. Do you have control of? Did you control and consciously decide and enter into this lifetime in a conscious manner, or did it just happen? And so will we be able to choose a next lifetime so deliberately? This is the one we have. We're manifesting now. We can choose to make a lot out of it, or we can just let it go. We can just let go of the baton.
Which is what Mr.
We are manifesting. We are manifested here, and this is part of our dilemma. We may not like it, or we can choose to like it. You can actually choose to consciously enjoy your life, no matter what the situation. There are people in concentration camps. There's people that have been tortured who actually chose to allow that to be okay in that moment, and would actually joke with their torturers and actually started a relationship with them that after the war they were actually good friends afterwards. And this kind of thing can actually occur by choosing, consciously choosing, voluntarily choosing one's emotion and one's life, rather than being subject to the events that take place. And this
you're right, but that needs maturity. And I think a lot of us, I mean, do I have the maturity? I don't know. I'm saying?
This is what we're talking about. For all of us, myself included, I'm not trying to be, condescending or anything. I'm saying, but the pleasure, kind of the dilemma that we face.
Yeah.
Well, may I interject?
Absolutely.
This is Camille. Okay, so I think what Mr. Keshe was saying is that once you experience...
Yeah, I asked for the opportunity to speak. It's possible.
Oh, okay, sure. Just let Camille speak first here, maybe, Shandor. We can hardly hear you too. Maybe you need to get a little closer.
I adjusted the microphone right now.
Okay.
Is it better?
That's a lot louder, yeah.
Okay. So some people may be wondering, so when we get a chance to escape from here, why we don't run away?
Okay.
Because some people don't feel comfortable here, and if they would find a better place, they would leave immediately. Yes, there are such kind of people, but there are also souls which see the beauty of this place, and they see the pain and the misery of this place, and they choose to stay here as volunteers to do their mission, to try to help the other souls, to try to make this place better.
We came here to create heaven on earth. That was we have only 3 missions on the planet.
So blessed are those who remember the purpose of their life.
The mission that we came to do on the planet was to, number 1, remember that we are co-creator gods in the physical, having a human experience, and source is experiencing through us, and to love with God with all our hearts. And number 2, we came to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And number 3, we came here to create and co-create heaven on earth. That's what we came here to do. The reason that, we see things like, I was going to say, Mr. Keshe said that when he was able to meet his soul and be one with totality, he didn't want to come back, because it was so beautiful. But we can't commit suicide because then we repeat what we've experienced to the point when we get to that decision again in our next life.
Yeah.
So
Do you know a culture where? Sorry. Do you know a culture where suicide has a very long tradition? It's the Japanese samurai tradition.
Well,
do you know when they do suicide? When they fail to accomplish their mission.
Okay. Well, you know, humanity is growing. We are young on a soul level. We are young on a soul level. So no matter what's happening on earth that we say is tradition for hundreds of years or thousands of years, it really is irrelevant when you're looking at it from a perspective of growing into a maturity on a soul level. We come to planet Earth to learn and grow with duality and free will choice so that we can grow on a soul level.
Yeah, so everyone has to find his own purpose why he came to Earth. By the way, Mrs. Caroline has posted into chat a link to all panelists about a short video, The Volunteers, Legions of the 21st Century Humans. I watched yesterday that very nice, very sweet video. I recommend to everybody to watch it and to contemplate it.
Mm-hmm. So ultimately, we're here to create heaven on earth. We're here to fix the problems on the earth for humanity.
How do you know that the earth? How do you know that Earth wasn't already heaven to begin with?
Well,
and
it fell into duality.
What do you mean by we? I mean, there's some people here that are obviously destroying Earth. Did they come here to fix it when they're destroying it?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I think some people are here to have different motives to come.
Yeah.
Some people might be coming to Earth for a plain old vacation and having a good time. They like the roller coasters here.
Well,
lots of roller coasters.
I can tell you that we are shifting to the fifth dimension. The vibrational frequency of the planet is raising because people are opening their hearts. And as everybody focuses on love, it shifts the reality to higher dimensions because we're getting closer to the singularity of the omniscient creator. So the higher dimensions we go, the quicker the vibrational frequency of that realm vibrates because love is more concentrated. We're going to get to the point in which love will vibrate darkness off of the planet because darkness does not resonate with the higher frequencies of love. So those who are here and who are not working on behalf of the greater good and through love, they're not going to be able to physiologically exist on the planet because our bodies are metamorphosizing on a cellular level. I know I may be repeating myself because I said it last time, but I wanted to, I'm going to say it again. We are going from 2 strands of DNA to 12 strands of DNA.
Okay, can I stop you here? Can I stop you here, please? Because it's important what Mr. Keshe said. And I have this real problem with all these interpretation theories about fifth dimension. We also had this discussion.
Yeah, that's all new age. That's all new age stuff.
No, it's not new age. It has nothing
to do 12 strands. We already have that.
I understand. I understand that we do, but they are as the vibrational frequencies of the planet increases, that's going to be the trigger that's going to turn on those other 10 strands of DNA, which is going to cause dormant abilities to come back online in addition to our 6 senses, such as having telekinesis, teleportation, telepathy, and all the clairs. My friend unknowingly activated his crystalline body. Your crystalline body, we're going from a carbon-based body to a crystalline body. And the reason we're going to a crystalline body so that we vibrate at a higher frequency and we're able to hold more love, light, and information. And it does cause the body to be less dense, but yet solid. In other words, it's transparent. And what happened to him is that he was in the gym working out and he was looking in a full-length mirror. And he could see the wall behind him through his body, and he did a video blog about it, reporting it. And he always does videos about having and keeping love, heavenly love in your heart through forgiveness. Okay, this is what he teaches about. So when he reported about witnessing this, he took a picture of it to see if he could capture it, to see if he could capture what he saw. And he was able to capture it. So it has nothing to do with New Age. It has to do with consciousness. And when a humanity on a collective level can awaken to the realization they are source in action, having a human experience, that's a trigger. When we send love to the whole planet, it raises the vibrational frequency of the planet. That's a trigger. The Schumann resonance actually indicates what the vibrational frequency of the planet is, and it has doubled. So that means love is winning. And then thirdly, it's been a dispensation from heaven that humanity be allowed to evolve to higher dimensions. So it has nothing to do with new age of anything. It has to do with the physical consciousness of the heart and the mind. So, I mean, that's my input. So anyway, if you guys want to see
put that into, can you put that into plasma terms? Because
plasma terms, I know that this is about plasma and what he's talking about, and you know, I'm just kind of new to all of this, and you know, found this came across my news feed, so I thought I'd listen to it, and I wanted to get a feel of what Dr. Keshe had to say about, you know, the plasma technology and so forth, and
so what did you take from
I'm going to bring it up
because that was a very interesting.
I'm going to bring it up with him on the panel, like possibly tomorrow morning or tomorrow night, whatever, the next session, the third day, and see what he says. I mean, there's more to it, and I'm just putting my information in that I've learned and I've come to know. I've been following this since 2004 when I came to first learn about this. And, you know, my other friend was emitting violet rays from her body, violet rays that was 12 feet, 12 inches wide and 12 inches deep. You know, and she has 4 videos, and 3 were outside and 1 was in the house. So there's more. There is more that's going on. And really the key to this, and the key for people to participate in the evolution of their soul, is love. Why? Because love is the highest frequency in the universe. We came here to create love and to create heaven on earth. That's what we came here for. We came to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, and we came here to remember who we are. Who are we? We are gods and goddesses in the physical, having a human experience, co-creating with the omniscient creator to create heaven on earth. That's where Mother Earth is going. And anyway, that's my share. And how it's tied to Keshe and the plasma technology, this is what I'm here to learn. And this is the questions and the explanations I'm going to share with him and see what he has to say, because I'm open.
There are many others here that have lots of experiences and experience with the with plasma, and what we've been taught in the past is the ability to recognize of what is going on around us with what we can create ourselves, as in our nanomaterials, the GANs, the processes involved, the dynamic reactors. We've all had some experience or been touched in some way with that, including in the health side of things.
Okay, so how does that work? How does the plasma in the technology, like, is the plasma an organic plasma? Can you explain that to me, please?
That is a very basic thing that we should probably understand. And okay, so what is a plasma? Let's discuss it. This is a great time. It's brought up, and
where does it come from? I mean, like, he's using the coils. I mean, let me just say this real quick before you start. Are you talking about these experiences that are coming from the coils, or what are you saying? I'm kind of confused on that part.
I want to, can I comment on that?
Yeah.
Everything in the universe, according to this technology, is made up of magnetic fields. So even the soul is a magnetic field, or a plasma made of magnetic fields. So that's the universal energy, and it got consciousness as well. But what I wanted to talk about was something that Mr. Keshe said about the soul and the heart that I found really interesting and that I don't understand fully. He said that the soul is like the proton and it needs the electron, and that the heart is the electron, but it's kind of captured. And it's like twin stars, the electron and the proton. So when we kind of releases the heart, the heart will feed the soul, and the soul will grow in size. So then we achieve what we are looking for. That's my interpretation of this. And we are on this peace mission with Keshe Foundation. And Mr. Keshe also said that by connecting with the heart of the leaders in the world, we will free their soul. So by giving to their heart, their own soul will kind of dictate them to do peaceful things. Thank you.
What about their free will?
If their soul gets more, in that case, their free will be much more free.
If their soul gets what? Can you say that one more time, please?
If the soul gets more power or more energy, whatever you call it, will that reduce their free will? If you find a hungry man and you feed him, will he be less free? You satisfy his hunger. So he'll have more freedom.
So if you feel the soul, you free the heart. Is that what you're saying? Feel the soul, you free the heart?
No, heart is heart, soul is soul. Don't mix them.
But what he said today was that the heart is feeding the soul. And we are the soul, so we will be stronger and we will keep our free will.
Don't worry for the free will. You all have free will. You all have free choice.
So it's the free will of the leaders at the end of the day, whether they choose to come to peace or not?
It is to enlighten the world leaders if they understand it's a bad thing what they do when they give order for more arms, and if they understand that's a bad thing, eventually they will not do it. It's about enlightenment. It's not about any pressure.
No, I understand enlightenment. So how is this relevant to plasma technology and the GANs? Because the plasma technology you're speaking of is the free energy that comes from the GANs, the coils, right?
It's not about free energy.
No.
It's not about
let's have a look at the video for a minute. Can you see the video on your screen?
Yeah, I'm looking at that. But
it starts with this. Okay.
I'm sorry, let me just say something real quick. Am I on the right track of thinking with the, because when I think of Mr. Keshe and his invention, I'm seeing these coils and he's showing how to, create energy through these coils, right?
Excuse me.
No. Yeah, the plasma may be involved, but plasma is much more encompassing than that. I mean, even the ordinary scientists, as you probably know, say something like 98.9% of the universe is composed of what they call as plasma, like the plasma in our sun, which is 98% of the mass of our solar system, for example. But Mr. Keshe expands the idea of plasma to include the plasma, for example, inside of a proton, or the plasma of an electron, or the plasma that's formed by these magnetic rays that we see on the screen that might be in space, that might be invisible. We have them represented as these light rays, but call them magnetic rays. And the magnetic rays, through the interaction of what I would call love, interact and form this double entity which rotates into plasma. And if you look at that plasma, it can be a sun, or it can be a proton or electron, or a GANS ball, a GANS, CO2 GANS, or some other type of entity like that. It's a self-contained plasma.
Now, when I hear plasma, actually, when I heard plasma, I was thinking of like black goo, that black goo artificial intelligence or archonic energy, which is negative entities, like that kind of plasma.
Sorry, I'm thinking you are listening to certain sources and you missed the whole point of Mr. Keshe's activity.
No, I'm hearing what... No,
so
I heard...
Let me for a minute to talk my talk.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So you talk about coils and GANs. Please understand, all this procedure to teach the humans who are so much attached to the matter state, to what you can touch, you can feel, you can smell, etc. That made necessary for Mr. Keshe to introduce us about the fields on a opposite way, not from the creation to the fields, which would be very simple, but from the matter state, from the solid matter state. How can we open that matter state to looser and looser forms? And that's why he came with an experiment with a coke bottle with some copper wires, some caustic, which we could produce and measure. We have a cold plasma. Later we have learned about how to do nanomaterials, then with nanomaterials how to produce the gas state matter, which means gas is as a nanosolid. Then how to release the fields from that, how to release the fields from rotating gas reactors, later with GANS field reactors, how to release it with nano-coated coils covered with GANS, etc., to let us understand that the fields exist, to let us have an idea about the fields. So it was a long process of educating man who is has his mind according to his education only in matter state, in a materialistic state, to understand that there is something which is not an apparent matter as we used to feel every day, and there is more to it, and we have this within us. So please rehearse your teachings or browse the books of Mr. Keshe if you didn't read them, or join to some Facebook group of knowledge seekers or of Keshe Foundation or of Spaceship Institute, and get a bit deeper into. So because what you say about black goo and other things, I don't know where from those information comes.
That came from, well, I guess it doesn't really matter where it comes from. I can tell you if you want, but I'm just telling you, the information and what I was thinking when he was talking about it. And
yeah, I know about some fair-mongering groups who are talking how dangerous things are on this earth.
Let me just
say not friends. They are not willing us to be more free. They want to keep us into the state of fear, of the emotion of fear, anxiety, and to keep us under control. That's their purpose with all this artificial intelligence and the black goo horror stories for kids.
Okay. Well, let me just say this. I'm trying to connect the dots here in understanding the plasma technology and how that's supposed to bring peace on
Earth. I'm very sorry. Can I jump in for a moment?
Armin, can you go ahead, please?
I can easily explain you very simple way, which is that partially the knowledge has been missing because we never understood the fields. We never understood that the fields, when they slow down enough, they become a matter.
Right.
With our knowledge, what we're teaching now, the same matter, we can convert it back to the fields. That's all we're trying to teach. Any matter what you see in our planet, you can convert back to the fields. So the point is missing how the matter exists on our planet. From what? We never have any clue about that. But when we understand our sun and operational our earth, we understand that the fields from the sun, when they slow down enough entering in our atmosphere, they manifest itself as a matter. You can call it gold, you can call it any copper, zinc, whatever it exists on this earth, it's from the slowdown of magnetic and plasmatic fields, gravitational fields, which they manifest itself as a matter. Each singularity to hold, it needs a center. It needs a soul. But we never understood this part. We went to physics, we went to chemistry, biology, everything we studied only in a matter level. But we never could have understand how we can convert this matter back to the fields again, which came from the sun, which came from the galaxy, which came from whole universe. This is only small part which is missing from our knowledge where this field came from. How can we see as a matter? And what we do now, we slowly teach how we can convert matter back to the fields, nano-coating it, then GANs. Then the GANs, we release the fields in the water. Now we have fields. Now we understand if we put a zinc, it's an emotional touch to us, we can absorb or interact with the fields of the zinc because we carry that field in us. So your answer, what is plasma? Plasma is the field that comes from the source. The source in our planetary system is our sun. We know it. Every morning you're looking at it. But we don't understand all the matter that we're standing on our earth, it came from the sun.
How is zinc an emotional field?
It's emotional touch through our... Can you hold for a moment, please?
Perhaps someone else can fill in about zinc while we're waiting for Armin.
Well, good afternoon, Rick. Can you hear me?
It's a little choppy, but yes.
This is Ted calling from West Virginia. I just wanted to say good day to you all and blessings and peace. And I wanted to say that I believe that the zinc connection is through the brain and that there's a lot of different metals in our body like gold and silver and copper, and they all have different places where they belong. And if you look at zinc, it belongs a lot in our brain. So it helps if you have good zinc energy in your body and you're working with the zinc waters, the monatomic forms, you're freeing it up like he's saying, like Armin's saying, is if you free up these solid pieces of metal and get to their plasmatic fields and then energize water and ingest it, that gives positive energy and good energy to the zinc in your brain. And we have a lot of toxicity in our bodies these days. We eat from a lot of aluminum and different metals and different coatings on our pans and things like that. Lead spray stuff in the air, things like that in our water. So we have the wrong metals in the wrong places. And when we can get the right metals in the right fields in the right places, it makes pumping your heart and your lungs happen so much easier. Because our body is meant to be that transformer, that transistor. Our skin is the nano-coating. When you feel those goosebumps in your skin, it's happening. That's your nano-coating. That's what you're learning about your nano-coating metals. And you can expand that and capture more and more energy from your surroundings. And so the zinc is just simply the zinc connects to the brain in my mind. It's really not rocket science.
But how is that linked to an emotional field? I'm not understanding.
Well, the emotional field.
That you have a mental body, a physical body, a spiritual body, an etheric body, and a.
Well, I think your emotions are related to your brain, but they're also related to your guts, and they're also related to your heart. So you don't want to just stop with zinc. The gold is an important thing to us as humans. Copper is an important thing to us. All the minerals of the body are very important, and they all relate to the emotions in effect. You can't say that none of one does and the others don't, but zinc is concentrated in your brain, and humans right now, in our understanding of physiology, associate the brain with the emotion. Now, more and more people are starting to think that the gut has a lot to do with emotion. The bacteria in the guts and the different things going on in your guts and your stomach have a lot more to do with emotion and how we feel than we once thought. And then, of course, there's the science of people saying that, like, ping pong players play ping pong so fast that it's almost faster than their nerves can send the signal. So I don't know if you've seen some of those kind of like researches, but in effect, you know, the body is a pretty beautiful mechanism.
Mm-hmm. So in all of this teaching, or what he's teaching, so does this acknowledge the, you know, the God particle, the omniscient creator, creatress, Father, Mother, God?
There is no God particle.
No, I mean, you know, so we're not stemming from any God at all?
Camille, you have to understand the basic knowledge of plasma, because what Mr. Keshe has done, he discovered what is really gravity, and he actually is the bridge. He closed that bridge between spirituality, as they call it, and the science. I mean, he spoke one time about, if he want to talk to us in the beginning about the soul, his main mission is peace and help us to reach our soul. And if in the beginning he had come and said, oh, I want to teach you about your soul, a lot of people wouldn't even listen. They think he would be another church, another mosque, or another synagogue. What he did, he came because he's a scientist. He found, because he's a nuclear physicist, he found gravity and plasma. Actually, what we learn in the school, in our physics, is all about, you have to put it in the trash, because the fundamental element of universe is field, magnetic field. And the true field is going to give you the plasma. And when you had a conception of your parents, your eggs and sperm, that's the field that created you. That comes from the creator, which is the universe.
So that's what I'm talking about, that's who I call God, is the creator.
Yes, I mean, he calls it God, but the way you're looking at it, because when we talk about zinc, we have a matter, antimatter, and dark matter. And then we talk about zinc, copper, and iodine. And those are the three fundamental things that you're asking questions, but that's the basic knowledge. Zinc is your emotion, copper is your physicality, and iodine is your soul.
What is your soul? What is your soul? Argon?
Iodine.
Oh, iodine?
Exactly.
Iodine is your soul?
It's a strength.
A strength of iodine.
It is not iodine, it is a plasma which has the same strength like iodine in between amongst the elements. So the field strength, Camille, if you have no previous contact with Keshe Foundation and the teachings, you cannot get in 5 minutes or in 5 hours the basics of what we are talking about.
Well, this is what we have to do, Shandor. We have to be able to talk to the people in the world, not just to talk to ourselves. This is the purpose of this group here.
Yeah, for that we have a...
And right now, Shandor, I'm speaking right now.
Sorry.
Please. And we should give Camille her due time here so that we can try to discuss these, find some common ground. So she's got some very clear ideas. Some of them are cliche new age phrases that I've heard over and over and over. I'm getting a little tired of. But on the other hand, we can find some common ground with these phrases because there's a lot of people that believe that we're entering into a fifth dimension, that these changes are happening, including myself. So, you know, I think we should be able to merge our technology. We don't have to try to, I mean, in a way, we're trying to drive a square peg in a round hole or something, perhaps. But I think we can come to some common ground with this without having to. We should be able to talk in her language. We should be able to talk in her language.
I agree, Rick. I see from the Facebook history of Camille Valdez that from October 22nd, 2013, she started to share videos related to Mr. Keshe and Keshe Foundation. She started with the Elector Live representation. So it passed, how many years since 2013? About 4 years.
See, so it was my understanding when I was looking at it back then that it was about energy.
I see. It was not about energy. Energy is a byproduct of the technology.
Right, but people, it's free energy. That's how he was advertising or promoting it as free energy technology.
That's absolutely right. There was no spiritual talk at all back then initially, until one day in one of Mr. Keshe's interviews with an Italian interviewer about, I don't know, 5 years ago or something, he let it slip that he actually prayed to his reactors every time he started them up. And I thought, whoa.
I mean, so
wait a minute, and how did he pray to his reactor? Even 100 times a day? He's doing
sorry, not pray to, but pray for. It's a difference. Not pray to a reactor like to an idol, pray for.
So do you understand?
Okay, well, I'm just trying to say that. Let me finish what Mr. Keshe said. Please, everybody, jumping in like you're all a bunch of nervous toads here. What is going on? Slow down a bit. Get into your essence mode. Get out of this physicality, blah, 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 yaka stuff. Just listen for a bit rather than overriding each other.
All right.
Okay, let's calm down. I just wanted to finish what I was saying about what Mr. Keshe said when he prayed with to from whatever with his reactors, which is to the beings in the reactors, actually, because they're alive. He says, I hope you're going to have as much fun with this today as I am. So I think we should take his advice and just have a little more fun with this and go with the flow and don't be so adversarial, let's say, in our attitude here. And try to include everybody in the world instead of just our own little group here, because we are broadcasting to the world. We're not broadcasting just to the Keshe members and that already understand everything. Most people do not understand everything. They don't understand a 1/10% of everything, including myself and most of us around here. But we do have a lot of knowledge amongst us and experience and, you know, practical experience, personally experienced, that we can pass on. And that is important, but we still need to be able to listen to those that are coming with this. There, you know, people on this planet are excited now. There's a big movement. It's a wave of soul moving through humanity. And it's, you know, elevating everyone. And we all have our different perspective of that, our own personal experience of it. But we can share certain commonalities as we go along. Try to define our words. If we can define our the words we're using, like with the plasma. This is an interesting exercise because it forces us to review, us being the Keshe Foundation people that have been around, to review our definitions and try to, you know, explain to someone else, like you say, in 5 minutes, it's nearly impossible to do. But we still need to be able to present simple explanations without getting into you know, we have to be able to answer as we go along, and it's hard because it is a complex world that we enter into here. It's bigger than the universe.
Hello, Rick. It's Caroline. Hello, Rick.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I've been listening to in the background, and to support what you were trying to explain, Rick, the essence was that when you create before you even start your whole process from A to Z, it doesn't matter if it's nano coating, if you're going to start producing gases, if you're going to kickstart your generator, your maggraph system, your star formation. Mr. Keshe expressed himself in the way, give from your soul, because you are a creator, you're creating a new entity. That's why also in the teachings it came forward again that before you terminate a maggraph, that you're going to unplug it or you're going to switch off a star formation, you have to give from your soul, because you will terminate something you have created. It is a living, it's a creation, it's a soul, it carries a soul, because he explained also some of them will be cheeky, some of them will be nasty, some will be depending even on the environment and your intent when you start creating. Where does this link bring us back to our soul is that we have learned, the way Mr. Keshe has explained, where the position is of our soul and how to find a connection to our soul, because we are our soul. And then I heard the explanation about, but we came from somewhere else. Yes, he explained this in the last few teachings, that when your souls mature, you go back where you came from. You go back, you're coming from a sun. You're going back to the sun, to your essence. In this process of coming and going and be here, you create your own identity, you create your own fields, you create your own being. And it's the blanket of not knowing, which now Mr. Keshe is trying to lift up. That you can be aware who you are, where you came from, where you're going to go back to, or if you even decide to become your own creator as a soul, to create a new sun. And this is where a lot of people start getting confused. What can I be? Who am I? Where came I from? Where am I supposed to go? What I'm doing here? He's trying to be very clear in these questionings to be answered. And I would advise to a lot of people to go to the last 3-4 teachings where Mr. Keshe starts going into the soul, because he's been very specific and he's now expanding the level of the soul, that you can decide and find your connection. Your physicality in whether it is zinc or it's metal or it's iodium or it's whatever, this is irrelevant. It's to increase your energies to reach that level. But as Sandra is trying to explain, as Rick was trying to explain, you have been given the gift of the ganses, of the nano coating, to create your ganses, to support the energies which you are short of, to balance what is out of balance, to achieve this kind of process and maturity, to evolve to your level, to connect with your soul and to free your soul. That's why the knowledge is there. And this is what you're all receiving. If you know how, go and learn how to make, create, or get, or receive, or buy the ganses from people which are already in this process, because the essence is that Mr. Keshe says only use zinc gans before you go to bed. Why? Because when you relax your body, your physicality from all the burdens throughout the daytime, some people really live a very stressful life, to be able to support the emotion to go into and balance these fields, because we are always using the balancing of the fields. The zinc can support you enormous with this. And we are usually always combining it with CO2. Zinc is your pure emotion, which you trigger the balancing of the fields. When you go into sleep and you relax your physical body, which compounds so many other things, the zinc will support you to relax and to absorb the fields you need. The other ganses are for different applications. It's very simple. We said that CO2 is an energy field. It supplies in different parts. You can apply it. It's a neutral, but it feeds you. It's a healer. We use it for different kind of applications, which I hope you're all aware of. And even if you're new, we can indicate you to go to the teachings. We can refer you back and forth. We can put them in the chat room. We can even support you by going to the kids' workshops, where it's explained much easier for people when it still is too much. Then you have the CEO, which is a disinfectant. It's not good for animals because they die. It kills viruses. So this is one part of another GANS. Then you have the CH3, which we say it's the feeder. When you're short of energy, the CH3 can supply you and balance you with the right energy, because you never take more than what you need. And then we have the zinc, which I just explained. In previous postings, Mr. Keshe has lifted a tip of the veil how to apply the ganses, the CO2, the zinc, and the CH3 in the palm of your hand. Just a few drops. Let it dry in your hand, and then open your hand outside the house and request to receive whatever you need to balance yourself. Because with those three ganses, you will be filled up like a giant energy rotator. But at the same time, it will balance you. You will feel good. It can supply you with whatever you need, whatever you request. But at the same time, when you're a full tank and you have been fully in balance, that's the time when you can start using the fields to give, to start creating, because you're complete. Now is the part when you feel easier to give. And we always say you give from your soul. But it's very difficult when you start arguing and you start fighting and you start trying to be on top of top. These are the little fights we are used to fight for energy. There is sufficient enough knowledge in the foundation. There are sufficient enough amount of knowledge seekers that can satisfy your needs for that what you miss, or you missed, or you didn't understand. That's why the workshops are there. That's why in the first place we are all teachers and we are all students. Because I learn as much from you as you can learn from me, and I learn and I share, and Rick is sharing new insights. I learned a lot from Rick in the last days. And I learned a lot from Sander, and I learned a lot from all the others which are bringing their expertise into one sharing, open source, transparent sharing. So if you could be so kind and just phrase one question at a time, and then maybe we can direct you and support you with whatever you need, with a lot of pleasure and with a lot of love. But as Rick has requested, please just calm down We are there for all of you.
I have a question.
You're welcome.
Thank you. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, no. This is Camille again. When you speak of CO2, you're speaking about carbon dioxide, right?
Yep.
Okay. Carbon dioxide comes from what we exhale.
No.
And the foliage and the trees take that in, convert that to oxygen that we inhale. Right?
Not really, because all is in plasma state.
Well, all I'm saying is that
plasma state's totally different. Yes.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. Where does love play into all of this? Where does love play into this GANs and all of this consciousness and soul?
Because you are the creator of them, and your intent carries with what you create. So your feelings are automatically embedded in your creation. Once people start understanding that they are creators, I was just trying to explain something. If you walk away from the GANs, yeah, you have a garden. Now you have a plot where there is nothing on it. Now you decide what you are going to seed in that garden. With one plot with love and care, and on the other plot, you're just gonna ignore, and whatever grows is fine by me. I won't even water it. So you're creating two plots, yeah? With your intent, you create a beautiful plot, or you create really a neglected plot. Now, with the Ganses, with your energy, with your interaction with people, with the reactors, magraphs, when you create something from zero, your energy, your intention automatically merges with that field, because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's the same as you put your love and care in that plot of land, which will be beautiful, and you're going to ignore the other one. Mm-hmm. You will see what chaos you're going to create, or more beauty you're going to create. So you direct with your intent and your fields, which are in plasma state, because you can't see what you feel. You can't see your emotions, except when you go and stand in front of a mirror and you see the reflection of how you express yourself in your emotional state.
So what does GANs, the function of the coils and GANs have to do? I hear what you're saying. What does that have to do with love?
Because your intention, your emotion, you can combine it or to love something and direct the energy. So when you give to your GANs to serve, because a lot of GANs are getting applied to reverse the conditions of, let's say, a burning wound. I use my CO2 GANs water when I burn myself in the kitchen. I just even put my hand in the pot when the GANs still is getting created. Within 1 minute, my pain is gone. And the day later, you won't even see the burn. And after a few hours, you can use your hand as you were never even burned before.
So help me clear this up, if you don't mind, please. How does this, in the way you're describing GANs, work? How is that relevant to also creating free energy technology? Because when I started looking
free energy does not exist. That's
well, when I was actually it does exist. And when I was first looking into Keshe's technology back in 2013, like I said, he was promoting it as free energy technology.
That was a print mistake, and he has been trying to correct it in so many teachings.
A print mistake?
Free energy
He's always said, and right back from where we started, there's no such thing as free energy. He said that.
Yes, No, there is such thing as free energy, and it was discovered by Nikola Tesla in the early 1900s, where he was able to harness unlimited amounts of energy from the atmosphere with his technology.
Camila,
just take a break. Where you just answered yourself. He managed to get it from where? Unlimited. So he had another source to be able to create another source.
Right, but still what I'm saying is that there is free energy technology that he was able yes, that he was able to harness from the atmosphere, and this happened in the early 1900s.
So why do you think it is in the atmosphere is for free? You tap into another field.
Well, because
your field, that's not free.
Yes, it is. He was able to harness it from the atmosphere by a device with a device that he created in the early 1900s, and he was taken off of market.
Wait a minute. With a device, did the device just magically appear one day, or did he not build it? Did it not cost him money to build this? And was
what I am saying,
was that money free?
What I'm saying is
no, it wasn't free. He got in debt.
Hold on a second.
Can I come in, please? Hello.
Yes, it was free to emit. Yes, he had to pay to get the tower built, but you know the energy.
Did you know that tower was powered by diesel?
Can I come in?
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. The energy was harnessed. Unlimited amounts of energy is harnessed from that atmosphere.
Yeah, like the solar panels.
Really.
Can I come in? Can I say a word?
That's suppressed technology.
Okay, that's enough, Camille. That's enough. Mr. Keshe is speaking now. If you continue, I'll have to mute you.
Can I explain something, please? I've been listening to this conversation. It's very interesting. The term free energy, it means we can capture it freely. But it's a source. Energy from a dam is a free. Energy from the wind is a free energy. We need a tool to be able to capture it. The solar cells, the solar system, solar panels, they're all free energy. But what is the confusion between what she's saying and you are saying is you need to pay for a machine to be able to capture it.
I understand that. But
so nothing is free. There is a source we learn to tap into.
Right. I'm not talking about the money that you use to build.
No. I'm talking about existence of energy. All the energies are free. The solar system solar cells are free energy. Everything is free. Tesla managed to create a system to absorb magnetic field energy. In the windmills, we capture wind energy. They're all free.
The free part, yeah. And I'm talking about the free part of him being able to emit and disperse unlimited amounts of energy for free. I understand that it costs to build a device, but once
you see, let me explain to you something from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have these discussions because it enlightens, it makes us think. What Tesla did, Tesla managed to transmit what he captured. There's a scientist called Miles. He captures what others transmit. It's a big difference. One is we call in electronic and electrical systems, one we call eddy current and one we call the current. One is the flow and one is back. Just changing the name, one is magnetical, one is gravitational. Tesla managed to absorb energy through a system he built and transmit it. And in so many ways, by transmitting it, only what he could get through non-material state was absorbed. Where Miles, he's still alive, he's a genius scientist in Germany. He works on being inside the box and pulling, where Tesla pushes from outside the box trying to get in the box.
But
no energy is free. Pardon?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
But no energy is free. We do the same. But now, if you understand the process of the GANs, I explain to you very simply. Up to now, we had matter. We had molecular structure. In the past 20 years, 30 years, we looked into nanomaterial. We made something, we said that anything which is a space gap of 10 to the minus 9 meters is nano, which is nano means 10 to the minus 9. Then the scientists start creating materials which are nano. I developed a very simple system. I created nano from the material which the material is connected to. This is the uniqueness of what we have done. Nanomaterial you go and buy, they may call it a nano, it's actually a popcorn, and then they glue it on something, they stick it on something, that they use adhesive. With this technology, for the first time, we make a nano of the copper from the copper itself, from the same material. All we do, we change the molecular to atomic separation. If the molecularly they are 10 to the minus whatever, we make them to become 10 to the minus 9. So now there is a space gap in molecular. And then the next step to it is that we put it through another process, which now the atomic nano separation becomes totally free. It's for the first time we can see atomic molecular structures on their own before we need electronic, God knows, telescopes, microscopes, whatever to see them. And now when we separate a molecular to a nano, which is separation in atomic structure, and then to a free atom or molecule, that you can see it, we call it a gas, because they first become a gas state and then refreezes back to its nano state. That's why we call it gas in nano state or gas. Now, this free material is like a sun itself, because it radiates. It's in a plasma condition, it's not in the matter condition. Now, what we do, you create millions of free stars. That's what it is. When you see at the bottom of the pot, what we call gas, is millions of free stars, millions of free atoms. One atom and one star are exactly the same. So what we do, now we got a bunch of stars which are in atomic condition, singularity. We glue it back on the matter which we made it of. Now a star releases its energy. This is, then it gets absorbed by the nanomaterial, and then it gets absorbed by the metal where it came from, which are in the atomic. And so what we achieve, we got a free energy. We managed to free the molecule into atom into singularity. Now that it's a star, we glue it back. It's like going and bringing thousands of sun and sticking to all the energy will go directly into the matter state. So what we create is a free energy. What is the misunderstanding with a lot of people is that nanomaterials have a property. If you go jump on them, you cannot get through. We call it resistivity. But if you swim like a swimmer along the water, is superconductor. It means you lose nothing because the space gap is magnetically positioned. The reason they are black, it means they absorb all the energy. So when you put the sun on it, they absorb all the energy. That's where we create a nanomaterial and we call the free energy as a gas. So Tesla had to go to absorb energy from the space somewhere. With this technology, we use the matter to separate it to a star and then we stick it on or we put it in and we take its energy. We have a much more efficient, we can control the energy which is freely coming from the atom or molecular structure in the gas state. We are all working. There is nothing free. The term of free energy is, it means we don't have to pay for it. Free energy does not exist except in the human body. We absorb the energy of the sun, but we still pay for it with eating food or whatever.
Right.
We create a difference. So the free energy it's a terminology which comes from somewhere we don't have to pay for. And according to what we do now and what we have developed, instead of Tesla spending millions of dollars or whatever, thousands of dollars, making bankrupt and the rest, you can do it in your kitchen. You go to a store, you buy a what do you call it, the toilet cleaner, or what do you call opening the pipe, the caustic, you know, when you got a blockage in your house, you put it in, you put that on a copper, leave it, let it separate, it becomes black, put it in the salt water, it's separated. You create your own energy. It's the first time man can do it himself. What we made a biggest mistake in our operation is that we allowed a lot of people to interfere with the work and the production of energy, and those people who were trying to abuse the whole freedom to stop the process of Keshe Foundation becoming known because it would have damaged the energy system, they start making it chaos. It was my fault allowing the system to be shown publicly how it's made. There are people in Germany, let me explain. There are people in Germany who are saving 60–80% electricity. Tesla could never deliver that.
Well,
Tesla could not very cheap, and it costs you less. Let me tell you, it costs you less than $2 to make it. Now in Ghana, in Africa, we have certified, standardized. We produce a system. I can give you 40 kilowatt free energy. We can market it tomorrow morning. It costs whatever it costs. Energy is not free. It's where we get it. And we use this terminology. I've got a big problem with free energy, because at the moment free energy is connected to a lot of people who have done a lot of abuse.
Well, anything, you know, anything that could be used for good can be turned into something bad. You know, I mean, all I'm just saying is I looked into Tesla's technology pretty thoroughly, and from what I understand, it's the free flowing of unlimited energy. It's not a cap on it or anything like that. You know, and his technology was suppressed, you know, and all
the technologies are suppressed, darling.
You have to pay to build the tower, but once it was built, he's tapped into an unlimited amount of energy that's free flowing, that doesn't ever stop.
No, I don't believe that was part of that at all.
Can I come to? We're not discussing this. Tesla did it his way. The time he had. In knowledge, after 100 years, we're more advanced. We show a new way to do the same. So nobody is wrong, but it's the process and the way we do it. Tesla at that time, he had the tower he made. I have a Tesla unit. We paid 7,000 to buy it. And I've looked at all the work of Tesla. If you go into the magazines, they call me the second Tesla. My work is not Tesla. It is the way Tesla at that time had the material to do it.
Let me ask,
capturing energy.
Okay. Let me ask you this, since I have you online. Thank you for your time. The other gentleman that I was speaking to, and we were talking about the GANs, and he said that that your technology does not create free energy, that it was a mistake, and that you shouldn't have written free energy. What is that about? I mean,
no, the word free energy we have become allergic to. It's not free. I mean, it's free that you can get to it if you want. Yeah, but it's not that it's from nowhere. It is coming from a source. By conversion, by diversion, by division, whatever. The term free energy means it's free, we don't need to pay for it. But on the other hand, you need the tool to capture it. If you stand, you put your light bulbs in the middle of the room, it doesn't come on. Till you have a tool that you can convert the energy which is in the room for it to be coming on. The freeness of it is how much you have to pay to get it. The sun is free. To get it built, that you can consume it, you can convert it.
Right.
At this moment of time, at this moment of time, according to the international government, which are looking deeply into the Keshe Foundation work, we have stopped announcing a lot of things because of the problems we had with the Belgian king and the royal family. They have set out to kill me and my family to silence this technology, and they lost. Very soon we'll find them in court. They walked themselves into it. But the same they did with Tesla. You just heard my wife Caroline. We've been poisoned, my car has been blown up, we've been shot at, everything possible by King of Belgium. Everything you can imagine. They silenced Tesla a different way. They haven't managed to silence us because we share the knowledge across. The terminology is very real because you do it. I teach you the way, and there are people doing it. There are people online. I know I can show you the electricity bill from German government, German electricity board. 34%, 60% reduction in power. The new energy units which are coming out, the plasma units, they go 80 to 90% reduction in your power. Because what you do, these are new hybrid systems. As I explained to you, you get the GaNs, you glue it back on there or put it back on the nanomaterial, you absorb the energy. It's like a hybrid car. You have a diesel and electric car. When you don't have when you're running the diesel, you charge the batteries and then you run your car. But when you run out of diesel, you have no energy. You can't charge it. Let me explain.
Go ahead.
With the new technology we developed, the system, the new maggraph system, the new plasma system need a pulse. It's like somebody is squeezing, like when you squeeze a cow to get the milk out, you squeeze it and if it gets filled up and you have to squeeze it to get the milk out.
Right.
The new system need the 50 hertz to squeeze the energy out of those gases you put on the copper, on the nanomaterial. So the system brings 10% of the energy to a squeeze. The plasma produces the other 80, 90%. Because once it's squeezed, its energy in the superconductor material is higher. So we have created at this moment in the market a hybrid where you take 10, 20% from the grid, we supply the other 80%.
From the plasma?
At this moment, from the plasma. Yes, that's what Tesla tried to do. We're all trying to do. Nobody is wrong in the world of science. We are all developers of different ways to do it and how we can do it cheaper. We have a technology now. We have a system now. We don't disclose it. We do not publish it. And in this system, I can take 1 kilowatt from the grid and I can put 40 kilowatt back into the grid. Plus whatever I use at home. And this unit is workable. At the moment, we can commercialize it. The whole idea is we can feed 1 kilowatt of the 40 back to the system and the system becomes a generator. Absolutely free. This system is with us. We don't have to develop it. It's already been developed. But it endangers the whole of energy system. It's been withheld by me personally. The system is solid state. We worked on it nearly 2 years to build it. It's been completed. It's fully developed. But we cannot enter, we will not enter. We are only selling the plasma unit, which is 80 to 90% reduction, which is the energy of the plasma plus the grid. The whole understanding is the humanity, the governments, the commercial units are not ready for a full generator. They won't allow it to happen. Because you got to understand, energy, 85 million barrels of oil a day comes out of the ground at, let's say, $50. Is multi-billion out of nowhere adding to assets. Those who are hungry for power and money will not let it happen. This is what it counts. You can use the same GaNs because it's the energy which comes out, put it in the water, drink it, becomes food, becomes energy of anything you like. Depends on the space gap. If you make a nano of the copper, The space cap is copper strength. If you make it from the zinc, it's a space cap of zinc. So it carries the energy of the zinc. So you can use it for different things. And when they were talking about the energy of the soul, this and that, in the science, because you have to go in 4 years, in 10 years of teaching to understand it. Everything has a measure. Your emotion, we can measure. You cry, now we can understand what's the strength of his field. You laugh, we can measure. It's not one way. It takes and gives, the balance becomes tear. The balance becomes laughter. The balance becomes emotion of happiness. Now, with this process, we can measure roughly what we call the measure of the soul. The essence of creation of the man is, which we call the soul of the man. And this is roughly, we measure round about iodine. That's what is the roughly is at the moment. And then we can measure it. You have a depression. The brain of the man is made of zinc-based material, which controls the emotion. So if I make a liquid gans of, make a gans, I put it in the water, you drink the water, not the gans, that water carries energy, which is the level of the cell of the brain of the man, which is the zinc level. So because you're depleted from energy in emotion at the zinc level, when you receive it, it brings it back to balance. So the depression, the emotional change comes in, because now it's fulfilled, it's balanced. You go and buy a powder, you believe in it, and then you still have whatever. Now the technology has gone to the next step. Because even the powder, if you crush it, is atom. Atom is magnetic field, it's a plasma of an electron and proton and the rest of it. Now we have learned to do it directly. We don't need to powder it, we don't need to inject it.
The powder of zinc is what you're talking about, right?
No, it's a gans of zinc.
No. When you said powder, you said the word powder.
No,
is that correct?
the powder in tablets, you make it into a powder. You know, when you go to a doctor, they give you a tablet.
And that powder is zinc, right?
It is. If you buy Viagra, Viagra is full high level of zinc in it.
Right.
That's all it is.
Okay.
If you eat an oyster, which says it's aphrodisiac, there is a high level of zinc in it. We know zinc is connected to the emotion, to the feeling.
Right.
Yeah. So these are all scientific data which is gathered by humanity over centuries and decades, especially in the past years. The only reason people buy Viagra because it enhances the emotion sexually.
Right.
So we know. So when we make a gans of zinc, the zinc is exactly, as I said, in the free state. It releases, it's a son of it. So as a son, you absorb its energy in the water. When you drink it, it does exactly what it's supposed to do in elevating the energy of the emotion. For the first time, we understand the totality, where the body of the man, the muscle, is based on the copper. So when you have a problem with the copper in damage, you know what you got to use. We are getting more and more. The technology is at its infancy. And now, in the coming months and years to come, we break more and more into it. When I started it 20, 30 years ago, it was just me. Now the Keshe Foundation has over 400 million around it, and we have 100 million solid supporters around the world that they are testing it themselves. And it's growing because you can do it yourself. You don't need to accept my word. I tell you what to do. Get home, go to the supermarket, buy a caustic which you open the toilet, it says toilet pipe opener, get a copper, a piece of wire or copper, put it in, put the caustic, put the hot water, close it, 24 hours, drain it, and let it go black. Wash it, and put 1 copper and 1 zinc in a plate, or the copper nano-coated and 1 plain copper in a salt water, exactly like you see. You create CO2. You can, if you use a zinc which is nano-coated, we call nano-coating is when you put in the toilet cleaner, the toilet opener, I call it. Then you create zinc. You wash it till the salt goes. It's a white, stuffish, cloudy. You see these things to the bottom. That is your essence. You can do it yourself. And if you play it the right way, you can create energy out of it. If you can push it back in. So You can do it at home. It's less than $1, $2. And then if you want to test it, if it's not, or if it works or not, if you get a pen, big pen we buy, seal the bottom, put some of this zinc and CO2 gas in it and close it. If you have a pen, just put it on the position of the pen, give it 5 minutes, see if the pen comes back. The reason pain doesn't come back is because pain itself is compressed, is produced from electrical currents, magnetic fields inside the body.
Stuck.
So what do you do? It gets stuck, whether you call it inflammation, whatever.
Electrical
when you put this pen,
okay.
It is. Everything is electric current. Our body works through it. So when you put a pen, because it's gas, it's a magnetic field, it exchanges its energy with what's the inflammation, it drains it from it, and the pain goes. We can explain everything scientifically to data. And it's getting to the point now, all the materials we produce now are getting scientifically certified.
I have, yes. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I have another question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Carol, I think Carolyn is her name. She was talking about the GANs creating a new entity.
The GANs, if you understand, GANs, let me explain to you. It's very simple. A GANs is a star. It's the sun itself, but millions of them. This is a single atom individual. When it becomes a single atom, it has no connection, so it releases its energy three-dimensionally. So we call it the plasma state, the GANs state. When you are in a molecular, you jam-packed in a copper wire. When you're a nano, you're separated, but you still hang on to each other. You're controlled, you're held up. When you release as a GANs, you're free, so your energy is three-dimensional. When you put a large number of these gases together, which are in the liquid, water liquid, and you put it in a spherical ball, for example, and rotate it, you see a full ball suddenly creates a hole in the middle, a gap, empty space. This is the energy of all the gases in trying to be separated, but they're centrifuged, go to the center. So all the energy of the higher order sits in the middle. Where there is emptiness, it pushes itself open, so it creates that gap. Then the water sits, and then there sits the GANs, the material on the boundary. We call this, as it is, in center, we call it the principal energy because it's the strongest, that's where it comes. The liquid water is a transition where the energy of the field itself from the center to the side, and the end is the matter state, or where it manifests itself to a state to show itself. When you create this in a number of conditions and the fields interact with each other, the empty space, if you get a copper sphere and then the zinc and then CH3 and the other things, when is a single element, when is a plasma, it's a plasma technology, it's just fields. When you put two plasmas together, it becomes an atom, it becomes physics, because you have an electron and a proton.
You're talking about CERN? A miniature CERN device?
No, okay. CERN is no, I'm just explaining you the physics.
That's okay. I apologize for interrupting. I just was interjecting there because that's what it sounded like you were describing. A miniature CERN.
No. CERN, the CERN, that's their job. I can explain to you. There are another field of direction. So when you have magnetic fields impact as a sun, we call it plasma. It's a plasma technology. It's a mother of creation. When you put two plasmas, like a proton and an electron, you create an atom of hydrogen.
Okay.
This becomes physics. So we go from plasma into physics. When you put two atoms together, you create chemistry. When you put over 3 or 4 atoms together, you create biology, become an element which leaves. Amino acids, combination of 4, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. When you add a 5th element to it, it creates emotion, because then it decides, becomes life. When you add a 6th element to it, it creates a soul. Then it decides how to replicate, how to produce itself, and how to control, to mutate. So we understand this fully. The knowledge of a man has grown enough that we understand the whole cycle of creation. And then when you put these together and you create a dynamism in it, the whole structure starts living, dictating what it needs, and in that, soul now has a life.
Dynamism is the word you use?
It's dynamics. Yeah, it's dynamics. It's a dynamic because they move. These are all the hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, or whatever. They are not matter. They are in plasma conditions. So they all move around each other. They create positioning and they create life. They decide. Then they create a totality.
Now, can I ask you a question real quick before I lose my train of thought? Since this is your specialty. Pardon the interruption.
I'm not specialized in anything.
Okay, well, I'm following you as best as I can. And I'm following you pretty well, by the way. So when you're talking about the fifth element or the sixth element that creates the soul, so are you talking about the holistic, the true nature of the soul that comes from the omniscient creator, or is this artificial intelligence?
It is, no, it is you. Are you artificial?
No, I'm not, but I'm just, you know, kind of being the
this is
devil's
how it's
advocate,
created.
asking you.
No, this is what it is. This, if now we understand the creation comes from. But the thing is, if you multiply and add these over time, that the different memories, certain path of memories has set up, and the more amino acids come together, then you understand it creates a pattern. And the gravitational magnetic field of this planet dictates what sequences they can have. And the sequence depends on, let me finish. If it is connected to iron, it becomes human. If it's connected to magnesium with amino acid, it becomes vegetation. If it connects itself, because you have to understand, for the first time we understand in the life of man, that our life is in two parts. Your body has two clear sections. One section is made of the gaseous part, which is the nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. We call it amino acid. When you make that box with the GANs on it, you will see it. It becomes fat. That's a pure amino acid. So our life we call amino acid, comes from the gaseous part. If we add the liquid part and the metal part, the solid part of the earth, which is iron, copper, and zinc, and the rest of it, then if you put when your gas of CO2 is getting made, when you put the copper and the zinc together, and you say the white things and the fat on the top, which is the amino acid, if you put a rusty nail in it, you start producing blood. So for the first time, we know how life is started on this planet. You can do it yourself. I produce when I need liters of blood. Because when amino acid is connected to iron, it creates hemoglobin. That's what hemoglobin is. If we add zinc to it and give it time in the salt water of the sea, if we put copper to it and the other elements which are floating, you create life. You create muscle. If it's connected to the copper, it becomes tissue, muscle tissue. If it's connected to zinc, it gives you the nerve tissue. Now we understand the full cycle. So you can do it yourself. I have a box. I've been creating creatures or whatever you call it now, understanding this for nearly 7-8 years. You need to create a condition, and that condition gives a status life. If you put magnesium to it, it becomes trees, it becomes plants. If you put potassium and zinc and the others to it, it becomes what I call horizontal people, animals. Now we understand the full cycle of creation. Now, if I put enough of you and allow for it to become dynamic, instead of static, keeping in one, then that whole appears. The one which I told you when you put in a circular ball and you rotate it. And then If you have the right combination of two different strengths, they themselves create a dynamic condition, and then which is what we call egg and sperm, and then it leads to creation. These rotating around each other, these fields of whatever you have in your sperm or in the egg, the two of them trying to balance each other, they create a magnetic field wind, trying to position each other. They absorb energy from the womb of the mother, the liquid of the womb of the mother. Now, as they absorb, there is a limitation in the size of a cell. Otherwise, it bursts open because it's too much energy. We go through the division of the cells. Now we can explain life exactly. When there are so many of these cells are created and they keep on adding themselves because of the dynamism between their energy, they become single, one center. That center of the field, exactly like a ball, become the soul of the man. The start of the creation of essence of existence. At that point, life as we know it starts. Till that point, does not exist, is a chemical process, is an interaction field process. Once that position center takes hold, then life starts. 6 weeks, 8 weeks onwards. And now we call that the soul. The center of the energy which leads to sustaining the totality and extension of what we call creation of life, we call it the soul of the man. We see it in the ball. If you've been with the Keshe Foundation over 3-4 years, you see it is created very rapidly.
Okay, I have a question. What exactly do you add at the 6th element? What is that element that you add to it that creates the soul?
We don't add the element, we add the condition of the element.
What is it?
Because to become the creation as man, you have many elements. You have zinc, you have copper, you have iron. Every element in the universe.
Right, but what pulls the soul into it? What is that 6th element?
No, the soul is the field strength in the center. We call it the 6th element. They become the creation of the totality. It's a glue holding everything together.
Right, but you're calling that the soul.
They call it the soul. It is the soul because it's a position, and in receiving all the information and giving back dictates the shape of your face, your nail. This is the central control.
But if I may get some clarity, please. You said the 5th element. Okay, you said the 2 atoms is chemistry, 3 and 4 atoms is biology. The 5th element creates the emotion. The 6th element creates the soul. You said the element is the environment. So what is that? Or what is that condition?
That condition is creation of the center point. That element creation of the plasma, which sits in the center. That's the 6th element. The totality control of all the elements.
Right, but what is your indicator that tells you a soul goes into it? I mean, you don't see
it. Is a soul. I redefine this soul as a creator of me. You find a way to call it the soul. What's inside dictates what I become. So it means the essence. We can explain the soul in many different terminology. In physics, we call it the black hole. In physics, we call it the black hole, the center of energy. In the human biology, we call it the soul.
Okay, well,
it depends how you want to define it. It's the center where all the energy comes from, where the existence comes from.
Right, but okay, if I may say and interject, because to me the essence is the thought behind the thought.
Yes, but you have to understand the center. So the center
I'm just
energy.
Talking about God, I guess, because you.
Yes. Let me explain to you. That's what I'm answering you. I am answering you very direct.
Yeah, good.
I'm asking you very direct because I know where you're going.
Okay.
Because 2 things is that center point, what we call the soul, carries the energy which comes from the center of the universe.
Right.
When it's connected at the strength, the plasma, the maximum strength is right in the center. And then as it goes out, it becomes weaker and weaker. I usually draw it like the spring in the old clocks. You remember the one you would tighten it up? I draw it that way because it makes sense, both gravity and magnetic field. So when you speak about at the center is the original energy of the creation of the central, what they call universe, and you go to the essence of the center of it, you go to the center of universe, because our universe is a small dot in the totality of the universes.
Right.
So when we go right to the center of this empty space in our brain, which we call it our soul, we are connected to in a strength equal to the creator, where it created originally.
Right.
So if you want to call it God, whatever you want to call it, it has a strength which connects, is equal to and connected to. That's why it's part of this solar system. That's why it's part of you. Because it has a common denominator to the origin. So you call that point God, the creator, or whatever, we come from it. So in part, in essence, in the center, we carry us. In another circle further out, if you look at like a ring, we carry the energy of the center of this universe. If ring further out, we carry the essence of the galaxy. And then the ring out is the carry of the solar system. And at the bottom, in the outer ring, we carry the essence of our creation, which is a matter stated strength. So it depends how you want to define it. We understand now very simply that us as us, we are connected to the origin, but we are created out of the accidents of the universe. That's all it is. Nobody sat down and created us. I'm going to make you human. I can take you to another condition in another position. You'll be totally different looking, because the condition in that environment does not accept the structure here.
Right, because matter has to metamorphosize in order to resonate or be conducive with its environment.
No, in a way, it has to be able to manifest itself to fit into the environment.
Right.
So the environment is created by the Earth's atmospheric gravitational magnetic field. We have discovered what gravity is. We know what gravity is, how it's created. And so for us, it's very easy to explain. The beauty of this technology, if it would have been allowed to come out the way it came out originally, if the King of Belgium didn't want to buy it all himself, that he become the richest man on earth, the secret of it is we have discovered what gravity is and how we can produce it. The rest of it is all extension to the knowledge. The biggest problem we had in the science was nobody knew what gravity is. When I explained it, I replicated it. It creates positioning. You create magnetic field and gravitational field. It's like two magnets you put next to each other. Then, if it is at the strength, they separate each other. They keep a distance. And if they are not matching, they attract. So gravity is made of the same structure. We never understood. It's from the same field. Depends if they are the same or they are opposite to each other. So for the first time, we know what gravity is. I was, in so many ways, it's beautiful what has happened. It allowed the whole technology to open up. In so many ways, whenever we came and we put the technology out, whenever who used it, the negativity put by the Belgian government out was to destroy this technology that we can milk it. That's all it is. Otherwise, this is one of the most fundamental discoveries and developments in the world of science.
Congratulations.
The scientists have accepted. No, it's us collectively in Keshe Foundation, we added to it. It's congratulations to humanity. It's not one. The problem is, once we wipe out this situation which is raised by the Belgian government. It's why one man, one king. He came to me, he wanted the technology. I said, you can take a walk. He said, leave my nation. I said, I leave you, but you abdicate. I left months later, he abdicated. Now they're in court. We'll take them all the way up. And then when he comes out, he says, oh, there was a stupid king who wanted this happened. His name will be written the most stupid man ever lived on this planet. But it had to go this way. And it's got a bunch of what do you call it? What they call it, free energy word, which came very popular with another pedophile, which works with him, and there's another one, Mr. Lorescence. There are a bunch of pedophiles control the world of what do you call it, media. Therefore, All of us. There is 100 million, 150 million Keshe Foundations.
Are you there?
He lost connection. He will be back. Just give him a minute, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So are you getting a little more of a perspective on plasma, Camille?
We all are.
We all are, yeah.
I think so, yes. That's why it's always educational when someone new comes in, or not totally new, but needs to have those definitions and so on. And Mr. Keshe comes in and lays things out quite clearly, and it's amazing. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, the way he was explaining it in the steps from which it developed to create a plasma field where, you know, it was more solid, it just reminded me of the CERN technology.
Well, I find that everybody gets reminded of things they're familiar with and have, you know, knowledge of with this technology, because it actually applies on many different levels at once, because it's so archetypical. And so each of us in our own way, whether we're a musician or a mathematician or an artist or a scientist or just somebody that, you know, pounds nails or whatever, then we all get something out of it. And some people are becoming actual plasma scientists in spite of not having the you know, rigorous scientific education that's normally required to become a scientist and so on. But in their own realm, they know things they're doing very, very well. There's, you know, grandmothers that are making incredible ganzas, and they're experimenting and going off in their own way and the things they're doing. So
I mean,
yeah, there's a lot going on.
CERN actually is created to open portals for negative entities to come through.
CERN is created. Let me go to it. CERN is created for one job: to rob the whole of European nations of a huge amount of money to create a lot of PhDs. That we understand more. There is no, you cannot create a portal. It's impossibility, because they're using magnets, solid state at high speed, and they have tried many, many ways. I know a number of CERN scientists. Even the head of one of the top scientists of the CERN, when he came to see us about 2-3 years ago, he said, change the name of plasma. I write your discovery is correct. I said, I can't. He says, my patents won't be payable by CERN because they're using it in CERN. So we need the knowledge. Nobody is wrong. CERN, they're learning something new. In other fields, we're learning something new. We are adding a new dimension, what we see, and nobody is wrong. Nobody in the world of science is wrong. We're just all putting bits together.
Can I mention something really quick?
Yeah.
And it's relevant to the shift in consciousness that's going on. We were talking about it before you came on, or you mentioned maybe you were listening to this part that you may have gotten. But we are shifting on a cellular level. We're going through an awakening. And it has to do with love, because love is the highest frequency in the universe. And it has to do with the evolution of the soul. And as we shift to higher dimensions, the realms vibrate at a higher frequency. Frequency meaning love. Love vibrates at a higher frequency. And what's happening is, a friend of mine, and I've been studying this and following this since 2004, he activated his crystalline body, because we are going to metamorphosize on a cellular level to go back to our original state of full consciousness, because we were downgraded to be controlled. And we're going from 2 strands of DNA to 12 strands of DNA. The DNA is already there and exists. It's just dormant. And doctors had discovered it, and they were calling it junk DNA and shadow DNA. We're going from a 7 chakra energy system to 13 to balance the energies of the higher frequencies in the higher realms. And we're going from a carbon-based body to a crystalline body to hold more light, love, and information. And what the crystalline body causes the body to do is to vibrate at a higher frequency, to resonate with the higher frequencies in the higher realms, like the 5th dimension. But it causes the body to become less dense, but yet solid. And the proof is coming forward now. A friend of mine activated his crystalline body without knowing anything about the shift. And the way he did it is because he always practices to keep heavenly love in his heart through forgiveness, and that raises the frequency of his body. And he did a video blog, and he said, I don't know what's going on. He said, but I am a spiritual warrior, and I know there's a shift. I can feel it. He goes, what happened to me today in the gym, I was looking in the full-length mirror at the gym while I was working out, and I could see the wall behind me through my body. And he's like, so if anybody knows what's going on, let me know. And I happened to catch this one particular video. I only watched like maybe 5 videos of his. So I contacted him, reached out to him, told him what I knew about the shift to the 5th dimension. And then later, about an hour later, he takes a photo of himself, and he's able to capture his body being transparent. And he's standing in front of a bicolored wall in which the lower half of the wall is white with a white trim, a horizontal trim. The upper half of the wall is the silver metal. And he's wearing black shorts and a dark blue t-shirt. And you can clearly see the trim through his flesh. And you can see the sides of his body where the wall behind him is bleeding through. And you can actually see that horizontal line going into the waist and bleeding in, and you can see through it. So that's what's happening. And the higher dimensions that we go, the closer we get to the singularity of the omniscient creator, the faster the dimensions vibrate within love, because love is love is the concentration of the love quotient is higher in the higher realms. And that's what's happening here on the planet.
I redefine.
Let me just say this real quick, if I may. There's a book called The Celestine Prophecy made into a movie. And in that movie, they're talking about this shift. And if you wanted to get a visual of what it looks like to have a higher dimension come forward with a lower dimension that vibrates at a lower frequency to fade away, you can see that in the movie. It shows a visual. Now, in the 3rd dimension, it's a reality of duality where love and light is allowed to coexist so that we can learn on a soul level. Well, we're shifting away from that because we're evolving on a soul level. And anyway, and we're going to higher dimensions. So that's what I wanted to say. Go ahead.
Depends what you call love. How do you define love?
How do you define love?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
What does love mean to you?
No, I do know. I'm not going to say that I don't know. Well, love is defined through compassion and empathy.
No.
And
I define love different way. I define love giving unconditionally.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a
when you give, yeah. Well, what we call love is, to me, when I say I love you, it means I give you everything freely, whatever word you want to put to it, compassion, care, or whatever.
Right, with no expectations.
Yeah, with unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are in that way, we call it magnetical, which means you give. And when you give, you receive more.
Right. Agreed.
And when you receive more, in so many ways, resonance does not exist in the world of plasma. Resonance is the attribute of physicality. Because what is resonance? It means you have to find a way that the fields can go through. Plasma has no boundaries, so it carries everything through. That's why we call it the superconductor when it's in nano layer or GANS layer. Resonance is when you consider yourself as a matter state, not as a plasma state.
Well,
and the plasma is the sun is a plasma. Plasma sun gives unconditionally, but at the same time, what we don't want to see, Sun takes a lot from the environment it exists. It's not all giving. Sun absorbs more than we can imagine. Without absorbing, it cannot give so much. It's the reality of existence. Otherwise, it becomes to a point it gives so much that it goes through. But there's a ratio of what it gives to its environment, and it goes through a cycle of division. So we have, when we say I love you, or you call it love, is giving so much. But as a plasma condition, which is the soul of the man is made of a plasma, because it has no tangibility, there is no resonance. Resonance is when you are in a matter state or condition of matter state. When you say it becomes crystal, sorry, let me explain. When you say it becomes crystal, when it becomes crystal, what is the crystal? You turn the energy in the way that it has a physical dimension. If you look at your skin, you see a crystal combination. That's, if you look at it, the shape of it is a crystal. It's usually diamond crystal shape. We do not create matter state, and resonance is a condition of matter state.
Right.
So you can decide as much as you like to solidify, but it doesn't mean anything more than that.
Well, when you say that, when you speak of plasma not having a physical, when you're speaking of plasma, but plasma doesn't have a consciousness of self-reflection. I mean, when you speak of
the soul of the man is a plasma, depends on what combinations we made.
Right, but that's the soul of a man. You're speaking of an organic substance that has no
still got a life. It still has a life. An atom has a feeling. What makes you think when it becomes together it gets a feeling? An atom, the essence of the creation, has a feeling. Where do you think suddenly the feeling comes from? Out of nowhere?
Well, all I know is that
everything has a feeling. A collection of fields which can sustain itself and maintain itself and responds to its environment must have a feeling. Otherwise, it's nothing.
Well, you can have artificial intelligence without a soul.
What do you call artificial?
I don't know. A lot of I'm seeing. Oh no! Let me take that back. I do know. What I call artificial is I'm seeing a lot of information, and I've looked into it myself. Is the people that are they have clones out there.
Everything is life. It's life. There is everything outside.
Let me just say this. In the movie called The Boys from Brazil, it explains how they went through the cloning process, but you can have a clone that is soulless.
It's impossible. This is nonsense. If you have a collection of fields, which leads to creation, even a stone has a soul.
I agree.
This is how they make us to accept. So how can something which got a collection be soulless? This makes a very good Hollywood movie, but it has no sense in the world of science. So these things makes a very good movie. But if you speak it, you see how we contradict what we accept ourselves. That we accepted so much nonsense.
Well,
we have to be realistic in what we accept and what is reality.
All I know at the end of the day, this is what I can say. All I know at the end of the day is that what our science, collective science, and the instruments that we create in the world of science can only measure to the mechanism or the level that it was built to measure. There are things that exist outside of its capability to measure. That's all I know.
There is nothing outside capability. It means we don't have the tools to measure it.
That's what I'm saying. So
it's nothing outside. It's us we got to educate ourselves what is there we cannot measure. At the moment, we can't measure the fields of a plasma. There's a huge problem with the measuring fields of plasma. But the technique is getting developed.
People are starting to feel what we call the fields. There's one example of in the Keshe Plasma Reactor group that I have every week, where Lee Coates, he's built over 100 reactors and has never felt anything from them. He's measured how powerful they are by other means, but it's awkward to measure. And then suddenly, a few weeks ago, in one of his devices that he put his hand into, it's a special hand-type plasma device, he could feel the fields. And not only that, but his second hand device that he built, he could tell the difference in the fields between that one and the previous one. So we had to sort of call him on it that, well, since when did you start feeling the fields? And he was sort of, well, it's just started. Like, so after a year or two of building all these reactors, suddenly he starts to feel the fields, and now he's more sensitive to these plasmatic fields that are emitted by these devices.
What do you mean? Like, what does it feel like? Like, I mean, when you say feel it, you could feel a vibration.
You feel it, you go through it. It's like a barrier. It's like putting your hand in the water.
You feel a substance.
Well, yeah.
No, you feel the fields, interaction of the fields with your body. When we flew the first space reactors testing in Tehran 8 years ago, I've talked about it many times. When the field of the reactor goes beyond the boundary, I could see where my fields were, the diameter, the position of it. Because when it touches you, is reality. You just bend into it. I call it the tickle factor. So we measure it. We have systems, we build systems, we can measure the strength of the field. But it's the reality. The knowledge, when we speak here, that's what was said before. We've done some 4 or 5 years of every week teaching and many teachings. So the people who've been around the foundation have grown to understand all the tests, and when we speak, we understand more or less what we refer to. A lot of people, I was talking to a guy past couple of days. He says, every day I watch 2 of the Knowledge Seekers programs to catch up. Every day. We got nearly 200, 250 of them totally. So the guy says, I watch 2, at least trying to watch 2 every day to catch up, to understand. The knowledge has been gathered over time, and coming in and trying to understand it in one session is impossibility.
Sure.
There is huge number of knowledge. You can apply the same knowledge into medicine. I don't know if you've seen the cancer tumor from the lady in the United States. You can apply it in agriculture when the growth of the vegetables are phenomenal, 2 or 3 times more. You can apply it in water dissemination. We are now selling these water systems for animals, where they don't need to have any more antibiotic because the field is equal to what they need, that they don't need to take antibiotic. This is the systems built and now getting used in Italy. The expansion of the knowledge, now if you put it together, the space left a space condition, but to me, where we started the teaching as of yesterday or today, as of Friday, is that now that we understand we have fields, we can dominate, we can control fields through our soul, because our soul is the sun itself. Now we don't need tools to go to fly. We can create that condition ourselves. We can create condition of the gravitational magnetic field of the water. Now we don't need to carry water with us into space. We know the field, the strength of it. We can drink the cup of water out of our own hand. So teachings from now on is understanding and becoming independent of the earth or any source in the universe, because now we can create what we need at the point of demand. And this is the purpose of these teachings.
Let me ask you this really quick. You just triggered a thought for me. Are you talking about instantaneously manifesting with our thoughts?
Yes. What you think, because it's the field, the strength of it, it'll be there.
Oh.
We are reaching that point. We have already reached.
Yes, I know that. Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you for your time.
We have reached that point. We have reached that point, and the teaching of starting from today is to bring man to that point. We become free of shackles of everything man is doing. You want water, you receive water, because you create the energy. It's like a sun. I've been teaching people to do it. Your soul is the center. It releases fields. And then Your hand is very unique to receive because the energy comes through the arm and your palm of your hand. You wish water. It's like a sun and the earth interacting together, they create light. And then that light, when it gets pulled to the gravitational field of the earth, in part of the hydrogen and oxygen mixing, create the moisture or the water. Our rain doesn't come from the ground. Our water came from the skies. That's why the cloud comes. So now we understand this. You can drink from the palm of your hand because your wish is your command, because you release the fields like a sun, and then you create another earth, and the interaction creates the hydrogen and oxygen, which is your thoughts, your emotion, that what you receive. And in fact, you don't need the water, because all you need is the conversion of its energy that in your body converts to water. When you drink water, the water doesn't go into your limbs. The energy of the water transfers across the wall, and inside the body, then it converts to what needs to be: water, muscle tissue, carbon, or whatever. So now the teaching from yesterday or today started is to come to the point that we are the creator of our own destiny and what we need. And we don't need to go to get. We can take what you said at the beginning, like Tesla. We tap into the universal energy, understanding the operation of our heart, which is a plasma condition itself, and the brain and our soul. Then we absorb what we need from the universe. This is the teaching which is coming in the coming days. That we feed ourselves according to what we need.
Like
then in a space, yes, then in a space we don't need to take anything with us. Because we need the moisture to exist. The body takes from the space the energy that inside the body converts into water. You need the bone, it does the same. You need magnesium, it does the same. Because our body is regulated into what it needs. What is short of is weaker, it receives it from the outside environment. This is the game of the plasma. So in the next 2-3 weeks, we bring a lot of people to start producing what they need. We make man independent of the natural resources, which is actually itself the resources of the universe. There is an upcoming evolution in the science, and we have started teaching. I've trained 4 people, and then 6 people together originally to understanding this. We call them motions. In time, they spread across the earth and they start teaching, and we start teaching ourselves. So if you stay with us in next 2-3 weeks, you wish to have water, you will receive water. You don't need to drink it. If you want it visually, that gives you the pleasure to have it, you'll have it. But in your body of you, when you drink the water, in the instant it enters your mouth, it transfers its energy. You get that feeling you don't need. And subsequently, in the long term, subconsciously, you absorb what you need from the environment. We call it the aura. And now we are extending in the knowledge. We're showing how you can do it. You want the gold, you raise your hand, you have gold. Because it's your intention, and you create the fields that the interaction of the two is energy of gold. And then if you need, it converts to gold. So we are in that process. That's why we started this teaching. And when we said, I usually don't teach so, what do you call it, intensively. We haven't done this for nearly 2 years. It's a year and a half. But now the time has come to rapidly progress. We become independent of all energy resources on this planet. By the time I finish this teaching, and the people can follow it and understand it, they never touch a single drop of water. They never drink anything. They never eat anything. Because as they need to absorb energy and the body converts it. This is exactly what happened in our stomach. Now we know it, we can do it from outside instead of digesting it. So it's a progress, and it will develop in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And if you understand to that level, then you come to understand that you can, as you are a giver, you raise the soul of the politicians. They walk into sign themselves into world peace, because there is no need for fighting and war. I have combined the peace and the new knowledge together to not to bring too much attention in a new understanding of the life. This is a new cycle, and when I complete this teaching, every man on this planet will have everything they need. depending on their wish. But if we do that, a lot of government jump. So I brought the peace and the new plasma technology to be taught at the same time, that in the say, technically on the cover of one or the other, we achieve both, but at the same time, the two serve each other. And this is what you call, what I call the mutation of elements. I use the mutation to change the man, but at the same time, I use the same mutation to change the leaders of the world. It's the same principle.
Thank you so much for all your time and your in-depth explanation, and thank you. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed.
And yes, thank you. Thank you.
We're about the time to finish, or do we still have time?
I know we have about another half hour.
Okay, I step down. I'll leave it to you. I wasn't supposed to.
I have a question, may I? Before
yes.
May I?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, thank you. As far as like the leaders and so forth, I mean, being a giver to raise the soul of a politician, I mean, how does one do that? Meditation?
It's very easy. It's very easy. No, you open up what is known. You got to learn how to do it. You open up from the what I call the soul of the man. You create a leakage. It's the same as having a brain hemorrhage, where the fields move upwards, and then they're so strong that they literally kill most of the brain cells. But this time, because you choose the strength, we say strength of the emotion, they receive it. It's your intention to put. And as you give, you receive through your heart. And as the politician, you've got to understand, these politicians, at the point they get, they're more hungry for emotion than anybody else. One thing which is very prominent, all the politicians, they tell you, all these people, they tell you, the higher rank they go, the lonelier they become. The more emotional problem they have. Because they get more isolated, that they think that they know they do not receive. Even their wives, they become isolated from. People at the highest level, it looks very shiny to be a president, but it's the loneliest job in the world. I've spoken with many prime ministers. They say, we wish sometimes the power is there, what we want to do, but it's a very lonely job. They consider you know everything, and nobody tells you anything. So you can elevate, you can give to the soul of what I call these orphans of the politics of the man. And by elevating it, they know where they come from. They lock into you and you become part of you. And you can walk them very easily into the path of peace.
I mean, do you do that like by creating a relationship, a camaraderie, a meeting with them? How does this work?
No, you can think of it to whom you want. I call it the telephone number directory. You don't know the guy, but you call him on the end, he brings you the pizza. Yeah? Now, you bring him the soul of the man. Every soul has a telephone number, what I call a strength magnetic gravitational field. But you cannot force, because then you committed a crime. And you cannot take, because you committed. Thou shall not steal. If you force somebody to accept something, he has to give something up to accept what you're giving him. So you're stolen from him. You make it so available that he cannot refuse.
So you're working with his higher self?
You call it, I call it, I work with his soul.
Okay. So you're not sitting in front of him and communing and talking with him. You're basically
I don't need to. At my level, I don't need to.
Right. You're doing it on an etheric level. On an etheric level, right?
We do it on understanding the need of the man. He has a need. When you have a need, you're on the lower state. And when you have the same at the higher state, plasma always feels the weakest that the both become balanced, equal.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused about how you connect with them then.
It's very, we all carry amino acid. All humans are connected to each other through their amino acid. It's our common denominator. And we have another common denominator, which is iron, because we carry blood, and that creates the emotion of physicality. The amino acid creates the soul or the energy of the atmospheric part. And the two you can link very, very closely, very easy. Your wish, what you wish is the telephone number you dial.
So basically it's through intent.
Yes, my wish is my command.
Okay, there we go. All right, I got you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
I love you, Mr. Keshe.
I love you too. Thank you very much.
Love and light to you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Camille, for your questions, which are always good to provoke good conversation here. Good insights, rather.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have... where'd he go? We did have someone waiting. Question. Let me just get that lined up again here. Plasma 7.
Yes, my name is Günther.
Okay.
I'm from Germany.
And you mentioned you'd like to present something about a peace project in southern part of Germany. Is that right?
Yes, so to say. First of all, I want to ask you...
Before you begin, let's adjust your microphone a little bit away from your mouth. It's a little too close. We're hearing your breathing and so on.
Okay.
Just a little bit back.
Is it better now?
I think so. Still a little breathy, but go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, I want to ask, what about the peace treaty of 2013? There was a peace treaty in 2013. You can download it as nowadays on your on Keshe Foundation, and so I want to ask.
Let me explain to you. The peace treaty is for individuals. This peace treaty is for the world leaders. A number of world leaders signed themselves into the peace treaty. President Obama did, but he never signed his nation to peace. This cycle is exclusive and only for world leaders to commit their nations to peace. There's a very clear difference.
But I thought the signing of the World Peace Treaty, there's by the leaders of the world on the 21st of March 2013, and then on 21st of April.
Yes, we initiated, was given, a number have signed. I gave it to the Iranian president at the time, and the Ayatollah Khamenei, was given to the Pope. We gave, and number have signed in their name, but not in their office. Now we are literally forcing them to sign it their nations. That's enough. We have a very bad habit in the foundation. We leave it to the governments to do it. When they don't do it, we find a way to do it ourselves for them.
So that was the reason why you wanted to force the peace in December of 2016, was it?
Yes, we tried. We gave them a deadline. Now they didn't follow. Now we do it our way. You're exactly spot on.
Okay.
Now we force. The thing is, it's the same. If you go back to the history of the Keshe Foundation, when we gave the keys with the technology, with the blueprints and the patents, we gave it to the government. We gave them 2 years to do something with it. None of them did. They did a lot of research for themselves, but they didn't come to public. Then we released it to the public. We gave the governments to take steps for nearly 2 years, 2.5 years. It was just, it went to Putin. Putin sent it to Duma and it stayed there. Obama wrote a letter to us that whatever reasons. Other world leaders accepted in their name, but they would not sign their nation. But this time now, if you really listen to what we are doing, we haven't given them more than 35 days. They don't do it. We are establishing a new world government. It's finished.
Okay,
You
so
understand the way I start teaching today, and it's coming up. I don't think many world leaders will exist in the very shortcoming, because the leaders should exist by the soul of their conduct, not by the gun.
so it could happen this time again, like it was on 2014 and 2016, that in end effect there will happen nothing. Is it correct?
No, this time happening something. That's why we gave it to them to do it. This time we're appointing a government of ourselves.
So
we are replacing
time,
the heads of the states. We are signing ourselves as human race without our leaders, elected leaders on the, what do you call it, on the ballot. This time the soul of the man accepts the totality. It's a very, very different way. It's finished. That's why we don't give them any more time. They had enough time. The world leaders had enough time to do it.
Okay, so this time it is really, really different than 2014 and 2016.
Yeah. They say to me, I have a very, very long patience. I'm the most patient person people have ever seen. But I took my time. We gave them time.
So
it's not we decide, it's a human race. We decide in a way that now we have the control.
So this is a way of, let's say, similar to your way of speaking about earthquakes, is it? So you said in 2015 and in 2016 there would be a great earthquake in California, but it didn't happen. So it's the same way now. The peace won't happen. Have I got this correctly?
The thing is, I explained the earthquake happens because of the splitting of southern hemisphere from the northern hemisphere. The process, what we saw and what we still see is happening, and when and how we predicted that there will be heavy activities. A number of activities happen, and we still see it possibly will happen very soon. But that time was a critical point about the earthquakes. We saw and what we predicted, the number of bridges, what you call it, of the layers happened. We still see there could be at the point of the change of a season, anytime. It says it will happen, it will not happen. It's the process which we warn the separation of the two continents. This peace treaty which we are signing, we are not depending on no one to sign it except us as human beings to go through it with other governments.
Okay,
it's
but
not that it's happening or it's not happening. We're setting it up.
They will happen, but they didn't. So
they happen. Number of the earthquake happens. What we were expecting. Yes. Now I can explain the reason why, and this still will happen. We have scientifically, we have a massive flow of fields which they interact in the Pacific Ocean. The amount of radiation from Fukushima in moving radiation and fields of energy from the inner center of the Earth has been fundamental game in this process. If you understood the work of the gas and how the magnetic fields move in the water, what we saw and what it still looks like, that the amount of nuclear material which has added into the water layers of the Pacific have made a huge change in the field transfer of energy from the inside of the Earth.
Okay.
Could have had an effect on it, possible, but at this moment we still see the separation of this thing will not stop. This process, we saw massive shifts, and we can connect it partially, but the separation of the continents will happen. There's no doubt about it, it's happening.
So why do you give any exact time of date then?
Because we do according to what we see scientifically. There are other fundamental elements which happens. This process, this is what we do, that's what the science is. When I give a date, when I give a time, because we see the processes which is coming, and there's a possibility, and there is a high possibility that will happen.
Okay, but
there was a high alert.
Please do not talk about an exact date, because
I always do. I always do. I always do. I always do.
But then you are wrong.
So a bit, but we've been correcting a lot of things which is correct what is happening. The science of what we disclosed about the earthquake is correct. The timing, the process has been 100% correct. We see the shift. We've seen a number of earthquakes in the right direction. But
not in California.
No, but
and
what we
California.
see, yes, correct. I never denied it's correct. But we see a huge change. The pressure comes when the pressure builds up. We've seen a huge change in the Pacific. We've seen a huge change in Pacific, and it is part of the whole structure. It will not stop. To what extent it will not stop, because the continents are moving. There will no way it can be stopped. We predicted it'll be in 20. I always predicted it'll be around 2015, 2016, that time. That there is a delay, they will happen, I accept. But the date we saw and the pattern of the movement of continental plates indicates that time. Nothing has changed. It could be this year, it could be anytime early next year or in 2 years' time. We cannot stop the continental shift. But there is something, what we saw, what is still there is dominantly and permanently on the move, and it will happen. It's a snap, very, very, very serious snap, and it needs one of the plates, which is a stock, to release itself. But we've seen a huge depression in energy transfer in the continental plates, in the plasma, in the magma. The only thing which I consider, and I explained in one of the presentation, is the amount of nuclear material which is floating has created a flow of energy from magma. There is a possibility, very remote possibility. But the continental shift will not stop. The breaking of the two continents will not stop. What I saw 2015, 2016 is and has been a high possibility. And it's our job to warn. I do warn. And when it comes, I do say, and I've done that. And most of the times we are correct. The major earthquakes we were expecting didn't happen. Something in the continental shift has blocked a motion. But when it goes up, the totality goes up. Regarding the peace treaty, what we set up for this year, we are signing it on behalf of humanity, people who will pull themselves as standard leaders. You got to understand something very fundamental. World leaders will not give up their jobs unless we do the move to change it, and we made the structure to do it. We ask, and I said even in the Friday and yesterday and to the private meeting of the councils, we know this cannot be done, but we set it up that we do it ourselves. We gave the time. This is the backup of what we gave the governments to do and they did not do. Now we do it in our way. We set a new government and we finance it ourselves. We have the backing to do it. We don't disclose anymore what and how we get it and how it's going to be done.
Okay, and that's the reason why. So you're a great scientist, and you know about logarithmic scales, do you?
Why?
Because you said the Californian earthquake will be 24 of height. So, and 24 would mean that the whole Earth would be destroyed totally.
What do you mean?
So you said there
we
was
predicted up to 20 scale. Yes, nothing will be destroyed. Whoever talks 24 will be destroyed is impossibilities.
No, it's
you
just
go look,
scale.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't. We are sitting on a liquid plasma. You can go up to 30 or 40. It doesn't matter. It depends how the liquid reacts. Logarithmic, it considers that the continental plates are pinned. They're not pinned. It depends how
in
the
logarithmic
shift.
scale, you would be there would be the 24 would be totally destroying the Earth. So it would be.
I don't think so. First of all, we never went to. We always said up to 20, and it does not. You can go up to 30 or 40. It still stands. We are sitting on a liquid plasma. You don't shatter. It's impossible to shatter the whole thing. And secondly, it's a liquid plasma. Magma is liquid. It'll take and balances itself up. Nothing will be destroyed totally. It's an impossibility in what scale you want to put it. If you were correct, if it was a solid state, yes, but our solid core is a floating bed.
But again, so the energy of 24 would be that high that that it would totally destroy almost everything. So, but this is another part. So this you are the
plasma. Did you just hear what Mr. Keshe said?
Yes.
No, Rick.
Explain this.
No. The thing is, we have to understand. According to what, if you understand a part which is written in the book, I've explained that the center of the Earth is hollow, is made of the plasma. It can take anything, and we're not talking about a spoon or a few meters. We're talking about thousands of kilometers. The crest, the top layer of Earth is very, very thin compared to the whole lot in the base. It can take anything, unless you put a direct hit into it with a massive thing, it'll bounce off again. It'll find its own balance. You can go back to some Russian results, which is done on the theoretical layers of the center of the sun. It shows it's impossible to disturb plasma layers. If you hit them, they always come back together. The solid state part of the Earth, when it does go through an earthquake, doesn't matter 24 or 30 or 10, the liquid balances itself. And because of the hollow center, because of the plasma condition we have seen in the reactors we built, it'll absorb and dissipate the whole, the energy. 20 will come because of the strength of the push and reverse.
Okay, so you're the scientist, but let me talk about.
I'm not a scientist. I work as a plasma. Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about the piece. I wanted to create first of all peace for three guys. This would be the first thing I wanted to do. And these three people, they first of all they want peace on their on the bank accounts, because they ordered 3 Magraph generators from you in September 2016, and they did not get anything.
Okay, that's what you're saying. No. He has to come into this chat under the pretense Rick project here in the southern part of Germany.
Rick, wait. When did they order?
In September 2016.
They ordered 3 Magraph system.
Yes.
Any Magraph system which we have ordered, has been delivered, unless they ordered a generator. There's difference between the MAGRAPH system and generator. We have some 500, 700 MAGRAPH system in stock. We can send you the video in 5 seconds. It's all been videoed because we moved the factory from north of Italy to south. If it is a generator, we have announced we are developing the generator. It's been developed. If you listen about half an hour ago, we have developed it. It'll be released in time when it's all completely, we feel safe to do it. Anybody who's asked for it, we have told them they've been kept in touch. If it's a MAGRAPH system, it's a nonsense. It's absolutely rubbish because it's in stock. The MAGRAPH system of ours, if it's September 2016, they must have received it. If it's a power generator, it's different thing. Power generators, we have informed.
1,800 euro thing.
This is a power generator. This is a power generator. The power generators we kept up informing as it's getting developed. It's a solid state. We had a problem with the producing huge amount of power. We could not control it. We informed everybody with it. People who ordered it, they know. Therefore, you're not talking about the MAGRAPH system. You're talking power generation, and we kept people informed. Anybody who wants a refund have been refunded, but they're all waiting to be done. So that's out of question. Next question. What's the second one?
They are not informed yet, so
we have a support system which keeps people informed of
so it does not work.
So we have to see into it what it is, why it's not working.
Well, I think you have.
Sorry for intervening. Yeah. Just I followed the conversation with somebody who was claiming so many times that he doesn't get answers, and finally he found all the emails were into his spam folder or in the junk folder in his email system. So the emails have been sent. People who are writing to the customer service, they have to put in the contact list the email address of the customer service to be sure that the emails will not go to junk or to the spam.
We have a good customer service backup which answers everything.
Well, ask the Austrian guy. I know his name, and he ordered 3 things, and he wanted to give them back, and he did not get his money back as well. So there might be some difficulties with your ordering system. Which
we had a situation with our factory in Italy since September of last year. And at the end, because of the situation we had to take over the whole company ourselves. We had to do a takeover shareholding, and we have shifted the factory from north of Italy to the south, which actually completed last Tuesday. And anything which we could backlog, we have backlogged it because they wouldn't ship anything out of the factory. And
there are rumors that the MAGRAPHs are built in Ghana now, not in the south.
Yes, we build, we build MAGRAPH, we build plasma generators in Ghana. There are no rumors. We have a certificate license and we go massive production. We produce on daily. That's a plasma unit, not MAGRAPH. The rumors can say whatever they like. The generators comes out of Italy because they have CE certification. The plasma generators have the Ghanaian standard board certification, which we produce and sell in Ghana. So rumors can be whatever they could be. They are different. The Keshe Foundation have 5, 6 factories around the world. Each one do their own job. And 3 more will be added this year. But we do not sell the plasma units, which are produced in Ghana and certified just about 4 weeks ago in Europe. A lot of people tell us, can you give us the blueprint of it? We have to have a blueprint. We say no. We gave our blueprint before. We are a bunch of what I call waiting to give and run and then disappear. The MAGRAPH units, anybody order MAGRAPH units, we have 700 units in stock. Then there's generator, which we informed we have a problem in taming the power. The plasma units in Ghana is not rumors. We are producing massive amounts. We import the parts from Spain to produce it. The plasma units cannot replace the MAGRAPH and generators. because they go up to 80%, 90% reduction in energy. They are not generators.
Okay, but what about the millions of magraphs you sold to the Chinese? Is it one of these? The 7?
Pardon? Pardon?
Last year you spoke of millions of magraphs you have produced for the Chinese.
We gave them all the patterns and all the samples. They are doing it themselves. We gave everything to them. If you were present in the ambassadorial meeting, we gave 3 to the Chinese government. Well, they've done it, and in China.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Keshe. I might have lost him for a minute here. He should be back. Just bear with us. And hello, Mr. Keshe. Can't hear you at this point.
So it was very, very, very nice to speak to Kakashi and to you, Rick, and to Mr. Keshe. I was very delighted to have this conversation and to have got new information. And I think it was very, very interesting for many people all around the world. I see millions and millions of them now here on the screen, and millions. And I hope there will be the flying car that was due in January 2016 in a few days, like promised. And then we will start with our spaceships from Ghana. And the spaceship, I hope it will be.
Thank you very much, Plasma.
You're
it's
welcome.
Been fun. Goodbye for now.
Yeah, Rick.
Obnoxious little bugger. Oh well, let's carry on. Sorry,
what's the problem?
Our special guest, I booted him out because he's been very obnoxious, and he's
no, we can't
calling you and anyway. Pardon me.
No, let these people come in. They have the guy says in Germany and he's in Austria. Then is a friend of his 3. If it is, let me know who they are. We got to answer these things. You can't boot people out.
Well,
they come to.
Well, anyway,
it's irrelevant. They come in under different disguises. You don't need to boot him out. We got to answer these people. You see, up to now it was 3 Maghreb, and then it's somebody in Austria. It's all as you speak to the guy, you see it's all rubbish. And then there are rumors there and this and that. We got to, the guy comes in with all accusations. You have to answer it. There were 3 people. Now it was he knows somebody in Austria. He doesn't know what, and then accusations. He talked himself out of his own way. Don't get angry. Any other question? These are all the circle of what do you call it? We know where they come from. The minute he said there are 3 Maghreb units, and then it says Maghreb, and then it becomes generated, then it's somebody 3 pieces, then somebody in Austria.
Yeah, well, he was obviously a troll, and he was under the auspices of saying that he's presenting his peace project of southern Germany, and this is not his peace project. So I don't like to be fooled like that, and I try to keep those kind of people away from this conversation. I'm glad you handled it so well.
Yeah, because listen, when we put this kind of live teaching, these people have to come to confirm they exist. Everything he says now is a rumor there. He knows somebody in Germany, now he was in Austria. It's all accusation to discredit. These are all their team. They are
well, he was going on and on without you being here, so that's why I didn't want to end the meeting that way.
Leave it. It's okay. What else? Is there any other question, or have we reached the time?
Well, we're past the time now, so that's the thing.
Who is it? Let's see. There's someone in the background.
Mr. Keshe, I have a question for you. My name is Ted from the United States. And I'm wondering about connecting up with my soul. And I've been working on it for a while now. And I like where you're going with the Keshe Foundation and the technology moving towards like the peace and the soul aspect. I'm totally into it. And, you know, I totally believe in Dr. Rodrigo and the Douglas, of course. And I think we've all seen what they've done. So enough said on that. But to connect up with my soul, I'm wondering, like, you know, when I start to think like certain thoughts, like start appreciating nature and like listening to certain music, my body starts like vibrating. I get into it, you know. I start feeling like the goosebumps and the chills. And then when I start breathing, like certain like breathing techniques after that, it kind of pumps it up and keeps it like radiating like real hard. And then I can keep it going for like a minute or two. And I've been trying to like send it to my pineal gland, and like I can get my body, like I can get my brain to like ringing in my ears, and my brain kind of swells up and feels like it's getting ready to blast off. But it always like stops right there. I can't break through right there. And I'm wondering if there's like a technique.
It's a fear. It's a fear.
Yeah. How do I quell that fear, man?
The fear comes of knowing that you can come back to whatever you go to or whatever you achieve. It's a fear of coming back. I had this discussion with the Mojans number of times. It's fear that I can reach to the point that I come back. I don't lose what I have. Because we've never been there. And once you cross it, it's there.
So you think I'm on the right track?
We all are. It's just that we have to find the right strength. And by the time I finish the teachings, most of the people who understand the process will carry on. They'll achieve it. It just takes time that people get confidence, and once one passes, the rest will do.
Well, it's a beautiful birthday gift. I appreciate it very much. And I also want to say to you that I really appreciate how you chose the word Mojan after your brother, and like listening to you tell that story was real beautiful. And I really appreciate your love for your family.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for your time.
All right, peace.
We call it, thank you very much. We call it the day we passed the time. We'll see you tomorrow morning, and hopefully we achieve more and we do more. Don't forget, the guy says we sold million to Chinese. We got to find out how we sold million to Chinese. You understand? The guy comes in innuendos. He was paid to be here. It's good to know. They have to. Actually, they are good. They are good for us to be able to clarify with a lot of people.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Never get angry with them, because these people they feed their children by all the rubbish they get. Huh? His money won't be in his bank if he doesn't come here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Love and light.
Thank you indeed. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe, and others for your contributions today.
Thank you.
That'll be it for the Blueprint for Peace for Humanity for today, day 2, the second session, afternoon of Monday, July 3rd, 2017. And please join us tomorrow, Tuesday, July 4th at 10 a.m. CEST as we continue this Blueprint for Peace for Humanity through the weekdays, possibly through the rest of this month. Okay, we'll end the live stream now.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.